Saturday Baseball is presented by Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball. The clock is ticking and the end may be near. The Players Association has drawn their line in the sand as August 30th.
If there is a stoppage, work stoppage, a lot of fans are going to be furious, and I'm one. It is very important for these people to get together. They can make every excuse in the book not to reach an accord. It is bad for them not to reach an accord. They need to keep working.
We couldn't agree more. The fan in chief has spoken. Welcome inside the Fox Network Center. Jeannie Zalaska along with Kevin Kennedy. This is Fox Saturday Baseball, your game of the week for now, because just 13 days remain before the sport could be closed down for the 9th time in 30 years, Kevin.
Yeah, you're right. We've been through this so many times, and the president is right. It's inexcusable for a deal not to get done. So what are the points of contention? They're getting closer on several issues. Take a look. Amateur draft, the worldwide draft, yes, they're closer on that. They're close in the discretionary fund. Revenue sharing, they're close. Luxury tax, however, is the big issue right now. Basically $28 million apart. It's inexcusable not to get that deal done. Now, what happened in 1994 versus 2002? Well, the average ticket price is up. The fans watching this certainly know that. Salaries have doubled, no question about that. Attendance is down in the last 8 years. Bonilla versus A-Rod, 6.3 million versus 22 million right now. And the Dow Jones in a bull market 1994 till about 2.5 years ago went up to 11,000, now back down to 8,700. We're in an economic condition right now that is not good for anybody out there. We're at war. September 11th is around the corner. Get this deal done. They've had a year and a half to get this deal done, and it's inexcusable not to get this done and have another work stoppage, Jeannie.
Yeah, how can you not compromise on your way to dividing $35 billion? Negotiations will resume today. We caught up with both sides on their way to the bargaining table. We'll hear from Major League Baseball's Chief Operating Officer, Bob Dupay, in a bit. But first up, Mr. Fear. We are joined now by head of the Players Union, Donald Fear. Donald, good morning.
Good morning.
Obviously a very difficult week, and as a fan, I'm trying to figure out where this all snowballed, because truly at the beginning of the week it was Tom Glavine who said, well informed, that we understand if we set a strike date, it will throw a wrench into this, and we can see a lot of progress being made. What went wrong in the past 4 or 5 days?
Well, during the period leading up to the August 12th executive board meeting, at which point the owners knew that the players would consider setting a strike date if we didn't have a deal, we had progress on a number of issues, and it was hoped going into that next week that that progress would continue and it wouldn't be necessary to get this far. Unfortunately, it didn't. Unfortunately, we are still a considerable distance apart on some of the remaining issues, and therefore on Friday the board decided to go ahead with what it had determined to do on Monday if agreements did not progress, and that's to set a strike date. Players are in a very unfortunate position and to a certain extent a little bit behind the 8 ball. If we do not have an agreement and we play through the end of the season, the owners can essentially lock the players out, refuse to sign contracts, try and unilaterally implement their new proposals, and there'll be nothing the players can do about it for a very long time. That is precisely the situation that the NBA players were in after the close of the 1998 championship series, and we just are unwilling to be in that position, and so it's difficult. The owners certainly knew and have known for weeks that if we did not have a deal, the players would have no choice but to set a strike date.
Don, you've made a lot of progress on all the other issues other than luxury tax. Can you explain luxury tax versus salary cap for us?
First of all, what we're dealing with is not a single issue. We have a current series of provisions in the basic agreement, and we understand how players and clubs act with given free agency rules, without a luxury tax, with a certain amount of revenue sharing and other things. Now what the owners have proposed is a whole series of changes. They've proposed changes in salary arbitration, in revenue sharing, in debt control, the luxury tax, discretionary fund, and a number of other items. So what we're doing is looking at a fundamentally different mosaic. We think that independently, a tax at 50%, much less at the threshold the owners have proposed, which would affect 7 teams immediately and another 5 or 6 very quickly, is something that would act very much like a cap. And when you add it to the revenue sharing, which will move an additional tens of millions of dollars from those very same clubs to other clubs, you have a set of circumstances in which the tax is just going to be too much. The owners knew for a long time that this would be the players' reaction, so it's certainly no surprise to them. But I think it's clear that what they are interested in is a system which exerts so much downward pressure on salaries that it amounts to a cap.
It seems like there's so much distrust in just the communications and the negotiations. When you look at that money, if indeed the revenue sharing kicks in, if indeed the salary cap that the owners want kicks in, would the players be more agreeable if the owners agreed to take that money and reinvest it into the team, reinvest it into salaries?
Well, there are a number of problems with doing that. First of all, the revenue sharing money, which under current proposals will be significantly, perhaps vastly in excess of the last agreement, that money goes to the clubs which have less revenue. What, in theory, they're supposed to do is to reinvest that in the teams and make it better. We've got to rely on the local managements to do that. If they don't invest it wisely, if they put it in their pockets, or if they do other things, that's a very, very difficult prospect. But we are not opposed to substantially increased revenue sharing. Where our disagreement comes is where you add to that a severe penalty, a sanction, a big red light when you're crossing the street that says, do not do this. Do not, with your remaining dollars, sign players above a certain point. We want to establish what amounts to a payroll ceiling.
Don, when you decided about a strike date and you decided it's August 30th, what came about? Why August 30th? Why prior to September the 11th?
Well, I think the answer to that basically is this. We have a number of things that are facing us, and we have to try and find a date which gives the maximum possible time to reach an agreement. But at the same time, if you're going to have to set a strike date in order to reach an agreement, the players have concluded that that's what we have to do. And by the way, that is the purpose of setting the date. It is to focus the negotiations so as to get an agreement, because nobody wants to go on strike. The purpose is to get it done.
And where does the fan fit into this as they try to look at the baseball that they love and think about whether or not we'll be seeing baseball in the coming weeks? Because so far in the labor negotiations, all the years in the past, 8 for 8. What's to make us think that these negotiations won't go south just like every other year?
Well, it is true we've had stoppages 8 times in a row, but only on a couple of those times has it been substantial. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that the fan needs to remember that in every negotiation beginning with 1976, the principal focus of the bargaining has been the owners' demands that the players give back, that we save the owners from themselves, that we establish some rule that says that the union has to agree and owner can't pay as much to a player as the owner would pay if the union didn't agree. And that's a pretty strange thing to ask an organization who's dedicated to supporting its members and to enhancing their position, as we are required to do by law, by the way.
Don, what's been the difference from 1994 to now?
I think that in 1994, by this point, I was virtually certain that at least in the short term, the owners had absolutely no interest in reaching a deal. Their desire at that point was to force the players to strike in an effort to break the union. And they succeeded in forcing the players to strike. They did not, of course, break the union. Hopefully that's not the case this time. We've certainly made progress on quite a number of issues. The number of things which remain to be resolved are relatively few, although they're the more significant ones, but relatively few given the wide range of issues we started with, and that gives me some hope. It really does.
Well, as we know, bargaining sessions continue today, so we will go ahead and let you go and get to work and hope that we will see baseball 2 weeks from today. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, and I certainly hope you do too.
All right, still ahead, is baseball down to its last strike? The owner's perspective is coming up next on Fox. At the Fox Saturday Baseball, presented by Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball. Well, like everyone else in America, Major League Baseball players could be taking Labor Day weekend off.
We did not set a strike date. We did not. I mean, the commissioner in March said he would play the season out.
We're concentrating on the days between. We're not really focusing on the date itself.
And we believe that in order to keep the game within the reach of the American baseball fan, we've got to get some payroll stabilization here.
It's a very complicated issue, but I think that there's ways that we can address the economics without necessarily making such a hard line.
You take the proposal, good, bad, or indifferent, you make the best you can out of it, and you make another proposal. That's how you get to an agreement.
There's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. You just have to be hopeful that, both sides are committed to sitting down and get something done. And if that's the case, then something will get done.
We have consistently taken the path of peace in this negotiation.
I don't think you tried to win a war in the press. I don't think you can do it. I don't expect people to understand, and I'm not asking them to understand. But what I'm saying today is I still believe we're going to get a deal done.
We're very concerned about the fans because they're our game.
I've done a lot of good things and fun things in this game, and to finish my career on strike is something that I'm not a big fan of, believe me.
As always, there are two sides to every story. So joining us now, Major League Baseball's Chief Operating Officer, Bob Dupay. And Bob, we now have a strike date. From the owner's perspective, what does that do to negotiations?
Well, any time an action is taken that has the risk of being disruptive or sets a deadline, it can throw a wrench into the process. But we're here, we're ready to bargain. We're going to bargain again this morning. And our goal, as it always has been, is to reach an agreement as rapidly as possible.
Bob, when you throw proposals back and forth like you did Monday through last night, what happened? Was it that minor of a proposal that you guys threw at the players that they just said, no way, we've got to set this strike date?
Kevin, I don't think so. It was disappointing to us. We had made a lot of progress on most of the major issues, most of the key economic issues. On Wednesday night, the union made a proposal on the luxury tax that essentially moved the thresholds over 3 years down $7.5 million. We countered the next morning, moving up the thresholds over the years by $6.5 million. And we then went over the next morning and said we were willing to compromise on every one of the elements with regard to the tax, and they said there'd be no more proposals, no more bargaining on the issue, and went and set a strike date. So we were disappointed.
Bob, explain luxury tax versus salary cap for us. Most of us really don't understand that.
Yeah, Kevin, I mean, a cap is pretty easy to understand. A cap is if you spend, you may not spend over a certain amount, period. All we're saying with regard to a competitive balance tax is to Team A or to Team B or to Team Y, if you think you have the resources and you want to spend and pull yourself away from the rest of the industry and be over-competitive, you have the right to do that. You can spend, but you're going to have to pay some money to the rest of the industry for the privilege of doing that. If you want to be over-competitive, then go ahead and do that, but you're going to have to pay some money to the rest of the industry. Our whole goal in these negotiations was to improve the competitive balance landscape in the industry, to give more teams a chance to compete, and that's the theory behind the competitive balance tax.
But how can you ensure that there will be competitive balance? Because there's no guarantee that the owners will take the money that they get from revenue sharing and reinvest it into the team.
Well, Jeannie, for the most part, clubs have done that, and we actually proposed a minimum payroll on clubs, and the union rejected that concept. I mean, our goal is to get the money to the teams, hope they invest it in their payrolls, and compress the ratio from top to bottom. We're at over 4 to 1 right now from top to bottom in terms of payrolls. Our goal is to reduce that ratio. That's been our goal all along.
Bob, every time the players have set a strike date, they've gone on strike. It's been 8 for 8. Why should we think it's not going to be 9 for 9 this time?
Because I think both sides recognize the devastation that a work stoppage can do. Because we've made enormous progress on many of the key issues. We have one major issue left to go. It is on the table, and it's our goal, it's our objective to get to that negotiated deal before there needs to be a work stop.
Can you put yourself in the fan's shoes for a moment, an outsider looking in, seeing the fighting going on, which is being called between millionaires and billionaires, and people that maybe make $20,000 a year and they're getting laid off, have no comprehension for why this is not working out?
Yeah, I do understand the fans' reaction. I don't understand, frankly, Don saying that it's odd in the 21st century to penalize someone for overspending. Well, I think it's odd, in fact, in this economy in the 21st century, that the base salary, we've agreed to raise the base salary 50%. I don't know how many unions will achieve a 50% raise in the base salary. I do understand the fans' anger. I do understand the fans' frustration. I also understand the fans' desire to see more competition, more teams competitive, more teams, give the fans the faith and hope that their teams have a chance to make the playoffs on opening day each season.
Bob, do the owners feel any more pressure because the players set this strike date prior to September the 11th?
Kevin, the September 11th has obviously been in our sights. It's why the commissioner last spring promised not to lock the players out, promised not to implement during the course of the season, promised to finish the 2002 season. He was aware of the country's mood. He was aware of everything that had happened and the very small part baseball played in trying to restore the public feeling last fall. And so, sure, we are very concerned about that, but we've had one objective from day one, and that is to reach a deal.
So where do we go? All right, best of luck as you go back into the sessions today. And as I said to Mr. Fear, I hope we have baseball 2 weeks from today on Fox to share with the baseball fans. Bob DuPay, thanks so much.
My pleasure, Jeannie. We all hope that.
All right, what do you think, Kevin? Will we have baseball in 2 weeks?
Well, I'll tell you, Jeannie, I got to tell you, both sides have a lot to lose. There's no question about that. And what they have to lose is the future of Major League Baseball. And I'm really tired of hearing guys say, I'm doing this for my brother. I'm doing this for the next generation. If you can't survive on $100 million for several generations, there's an issue here. What you've got to lose, both sides, are fans. That's the difference, fans. Don't take these fans for granted. They're not going to put up with it. Football's around the corner. Have baseball through September. Have a World Series. Get this thing done in the next 10 days.
All right, do they get it done?
I think they get it done. I do. I feel they're too close to let this stop. Let luxury tax be the issue, or competitive balance tax, whatever you want to call it, whatever spin you want to put on it. That's great. Semantics. Get the thing done, and let's play baseball.
And both sides appear to be optimistic, but we should point out that we could not get both sides to agree to actually sit together to come on Fox. But we do appreciate their contributions, and I guess we will all keep our fingers crossed. Coming up next on Fox, baseball. Actual games. The Diamondbacks at the Cubs. And, of course, Scott Rolen returns to Philadelphia. We'll keep you updated throughout. Enjoy.
No. John Doe. Friday's Fox Ball.
Saturday afternoon in Philadelphia, and the Phillies have suddenly won 5 straight today. They try and knock St. Louis down a peg. The Cardinals still leading the Central by 4 over Houston and 4.5 over Cincinnati. Josh Lewin along with Tim McCarver. Welcome to our coverage of Major League Baseball on Fox today. Scott Rolen has traded uniforms. You might have heard something about that.
Yeah, Josh, about 9 days ago, keep in mind the Houston Astros had crept to within a game of the first-place Cardinals. Now it's 4. We just looked at the standings. Primarily, the Cardinals, since that time, have been rolling on the river, primarily also because of that guy, Scott Rolen, who has had a terrific week.
Scott Rolen was, well, I guess you could say welcomed back to Philadelphia yesterday. There were some boos, there were some cheers. He had joy, he had fun, he had... All right, anyway. Scott Rolen was meeting and greeting moments ago. The autograph pen is still there. The big bat has been there, too. Cardinals and Phillies are next on Fox. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by Clarinex. Discover Clarinex today. Talk to your doctor for more information. By Nissan and your Nissan dealer. By Coors Original Real Golden Beer, the official sponsor of Guys Night Out. And by Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball. 92 degrees and humid in Philadelphia today. The Phillies have won 5 straight. The Cardinals had won 6 straight before last night. The starting lineup for the Cardinals presented by WebMD. Fernando Vina and J.D. Drew at the top to set up another lefty. That's Jim Edmonds. He is 9th in the league in batting average. Albert Pujols, Mr. Rolen, will be welcomed in his own special way again this afternoon. Tino Martinez, Edgar Renteria, Mike DeFelice, Jason Simon-Tachi is the pitcher batting 9th. David Coggin, not nearly as fun to say as Simon-Tachi, but he is on the mound for Philadelphia.
The Phillies have they've gotten some awfully good pitching. They've had 2 straight shutouts, most recently the one against the Cardinals last night. And the scouting report on David Coggin, football mentality, first strike more important for him than it is for most pitchers. And it's rare, Josh, that you see in the middle of August a pitcher coming out of the bullpen and having only a 70-pitch limit. Standard equipment, as the players say. The 4-seam fastball on the left, the slider grip. Indication right there of finger pressure. That's a circle change, a low left. And then the curveball, and I mean it's a devastating curveball when he can get it over. But as we said, the first pitch, the most important for a young pitcher like Coggin.
He has done well as a reliever. He has basically been a dartboard as a starter, but here he is back in the rotation for a bit. And he slams one in. There's that first pitch strike to Fernando Vina. Vigna in hitting .268. And he takes up and away. Wally Bell is your home plate umpire today. John Hirschbeck, C.B. Buckner, Mark Carlson, rest of the way around. To right field. And taking off is Jeremy Giambi. He will put it away on the warning track. The rest of the way defensively for the Philadelphia Phillies, who are no longer in last place, by the way. They have inched their way to third. They've got a shot to be in second. Lee, Anderson, Rollins, Polanco, Burrell, Abreu, and we've already heard from Giambi out there in the outfield. Todd Pratt is the catcher. And getting only the junior varsity booze right now, J.D. Drew. Normally, he comes here to Philadelphia. He hears all about it. They're saving their lung power for Scott Rolen.
Jeremy Giambi in right field, you can see usually, and this is not a knock on Giambi, but usually the poorer the outfielder, the deeper he plays, and that's why a guy like Giambi
is too far back to make this play.
That's exactly right. That was a nice cue, and we appreciate J.D. Drew, who'll get a piece of Josh Lewin's check this coming week for okaying the broadcast. But that is true. The poorer the outfielder, the deeper he plays, because he can't go back on the ball. Now, you could see the freeze right there. Now, that doesn't mean that Giambi's playing way too deep, but an athletic, very good outfielder plays shallow because they have the ability to go back so well.
And J.D. Drew does have the ability to run a little bit. He's got 8 steals. Jim Edmonds to the plate. Jim Edmonds hits the double play ball. It goes 4 to 6 to 3, and they got it. 1, 2, 3 first for Dave Coggin. Now the Phillies coming up on Fox when we come back. Bottom of the first at a hand today here in Philly. Jason Simon Tachi, 8 wins, 4 losses on the mound. And let's look at the starting lineup for Philadelphia, presented by WebMD. Jimmy Rollins has heated up of late. He is batting first. Then it's Marlon Anderson, Bobby Abreu, and Pat Burrell making a run at maybe a 40 home run season. Jeremy Giambi, Placido Polanco, Travis Lee, Todd Pratt, and the pitcher Dave Coggin. It is Jason Simon Tachi on the mound.
Jason started off the season 7-0, and he's lost 4 of his last 5 decisions, but he has been quite a story. Last year, 6-13 in Edmonton. That's right, Edmonton. What a difference a year makes. And just like a pot stop azul, that's amore. Very nice. 1/8 Italian, we understand. His great-grandfather and great-grandmother, born in Milano, and the pitch grips by Jason Simontachi, and you will notice again the finger pressure on the seams. And we were kidding about it last week, Josh, about what if players threw a baseball that didn't have seams. Well, obviously you wouldn't have as much leverage as you have now.
Regardless of what percentage Italian they are.
Yes, right.
1/8, you say?
1/8.
1/8.
Great-grandmother and great-grandfather born in Milano.
Rollins to second base, and Jimmy Rollins the first out here in the bottom of the first inning. Defensively, check it on out with Tino Martinez at first and Fernando Vigna at second. Let's not kid ourselves. All eyeballs are on Scott Rolen here. We can read the rest. But
yep.
Rolen made an error in the game yesterday and was hooted down because of it. But a quick look around Veterans Stadium today. There are a couple of bedsheet banners saying they actually like Scott Rolen. Some going so far as to say they love Scott Rolen. And if you watch the highlights from the game last night, now you note the past tense on that one, by the way.
Right.
The teenagers from New Jersey are back. They were here last night. Scotty, you're my hottie.
Easy to be a hottie on a day like today, Josh.
Looking for the McCarver banners. Tim, you're still trim. There's one right there.
He was once a Philly favorite. That 1990 right there, by the way, that was the last year at the Phillies plate without the services of Mike Schmidt. He's been the best player for the Phillies since then.
Marlon Anderson dunking one to center, and it pinballs away from Edmonds. It'll be backed up by Pujols. That's going to be 2 bases for Marlon Anderson.
Looked like the ball hit off the shin. No, it was the forearm of Jim Edmonds. The short hop was not true, and that's unusual. Usually on short hops with the artificial surface, one of 4 major league parks that has the artificial surface. Anderson trying to time the turn at first base. And most guys will do that. You don't want to get caught in between first and second and go too far around the bag.
Bobby Abreu takes down an in. You know, the Phillies ranked 29th out of 30 teams in terms of on-base percentage from the 1 and 2 spots in the batting order. You look at a guy like Abreu with only 61 runs batted in. That stat helps to explain why he's only at 61. He's a pretty good hitter.
Yeah, the Phillies have a problem with their first 3 spots. The spots that you want on-base percentage from, 1 and 2, you get it from your 3-hole hitter. You don't want it from your 3 and 4-hole hitter. It can actually be a detriment if their on-base percentage is too good. The reason for that, they take the walks. And they're going to be issued walks with first base open, things like that. On-base percentage is not a true gauge of a player's offensive ability.
And chances are, Abreu's an exception because he does have speed, but chances are your 3, 4, 5 guys are plotters on the base paths too.
They clog up the bases.
That one slams over the inside corner. And the count 2-2 to Abreu.
After going away 3 times, Simon Tachi comes back inside with that tailing fastball.
Boy, Simon Tachi for the first 4 months of the season seemed to have cemented the feel-good storyline that Hollywood tends to make movies out of. But no one's going to make the movie if your second half ERA is up near 8. And that's what Simon Tachi's looking at right now. On the ground to second base. Vina keeps playing deep over there as the ball does get on you quickly here. Anderson moves to third. Pat Burrell coming up. Now, the last 4 starts, Simon Tachi has had to fight the opinion that maybe the rented tuxedo was due back at the shop a couple weeks ago. He was snazzy in those first 13 starts.
Said he won his first 7 games. He won his first 6 games. Then he lost to the Chicago Cubs on a Sunday night game. He came back and won 1. But it has been a tough 5 starts for Simon Tachi.
Yeah, his ERA in May was 2. In June it was 3, but then July 4, and now August 12. Pat Burrell cuts under one. Rolen gives it a look. It is back into the crowd.
We give to you fans a different scouting report than the players get. And 3 of the first 4 batters have swung at the first pitch. So the Phillies are aware that Simon Tachi is a control pitcher. And usually with the control pitcher, you're more inclined to swing at that first pitch instead of taking it.
Up and in with the fastball. Simon Tachi walked only 1 in his last start. Not the prettiest win in baseball history, but compared to his previous 3, it was the proverbial Mona Lisa. 5 runs in 5 1/3 given up, but around long enough for the win. They've already ridden Simon Tachi a pretty long ways here, Tim. I mean, this guy was supposed to be the number 4 starter at AAA this year. He has turned into the number 2 starter in St. Louis.
AAA affiliate down in Memphis. AutoZone Park in Memphis. $70 million stadium in AAA ball.
What was Tim McCarver's stadium? $20 million.
Chump change.
A lot going on with Memphis this weekend.
It is. 51,000 at Elvis's memorial yesterday, the 25th anniversary.
All right, wait a
Elvis
minute.
Presley also dying on the same date, August 16th, back in 1948.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth.
Same day.
Same day, you got it.
Two pretty famous guys. Now, I don't pretend that you've hung with the Babe, but I know, I've heard that you've actually met Elvis.
Met him a couple of times. I wouldn't say we were bosom buddies, but we, you know.
That's still pretty cool. Down and outside here.
Elvis very loyal to his childhood chums. Went to high school at Humes High in Memphis. From Tupelo, Mississippi.
By the way, I won the pool. You mentioned Elvis at 1:38 Eastern Standard Time.
Good. You had to.
Burl cuts at it, doesn't get it. And that'll do it for the first inning. Fox Sports, home of the 2002 postseason and World Series, returns after these messages from your local Fox station.
Don't be cruel.
Include an earful for the man who's now moved on deck, Scott Rolen, who did go 2 for 4 yesterday in his return to Philadelphia. First, Albert Pujols bats. Dave Coggin deals and misses down too low. Albert Pujols second in the league in runs scored. He is third in runs batted in. He's got 12 runs batted in just in his last 7 days. Coggin, who is expected to throw only 70 pitches today, goes 2-0 on Pujols. That is not a great place to be if you're Dave Coggin.
Now, the reason for that is Brandon Duckworth, relegated to the bullpen today. He was a starting pitcher, and he has fallen out of favor with Vern Rule, of whom you just had a glance. And that's why Coggin gets the start today.
Last year it was Randy Wolf who got this same treatment. Go figure out your problems in the bullpen. Wolf did that. He is now the Phillies' #2 starter. That one sneaking past the pitcher, and Pujols is going to end up safe at first. Scott Rolen is coming up, and we'll let you listen to his reception. Oh, what do we call that? Mixed?
More than mixed. I think more boos than cheers, but it's something that will wear off of the Philly fans here once Rolen becomes firmly entrenched in St. Louis, if he does so, if they can sign him after this year. Check swing. Watch Pujols. A check swing and a similar way of going after it by Coggin. Off the glove or off the wrist, and an infield hit for Pujols.
Tugs his batting average up to an even 300. Rolen is swing and a miss. You know which fans are enjoying that. You just heard them.
Middle of the plate fastball. That's odd because you don't see many hitters swing through a low fastball. We talked about that last Saturday.
Inside it hit him. And that even gets some cheers.
Yeah, from the wrong people.
Yeah. Now, technically, it's alumni weekend here at the Vet. I don't know if I'd show at the homecoming dance if I were Scott Rolen.
Some of the great Philly greats is this ball, a two-seamer that goes in and hits Rolen and also hits the catcher, Todd Pratt. Coggin trying to come in close and now finds himself with nobody out and an RBI man up in Tino Martinez.
And Tino Martinez 4 for 7 lifetime against Dave Coggin. Some of the pressure really off of Tino Martinez now, too, with the arrival of Scott Rolen. Got another big-time proven run producer. And Tino Martinez has responded. With Rolen absorbing a lot of that pressure, Tino has hit safely a 9 out of 10. Not that Tino can't handle pressure. He had to go replace Don Mattingly in New York not too long ago. And how about replacing a redhead by the name of McGuire in St. Louis?
That's over a 6-year period. He replaced the captain, Don Mattingly, and then Mark McGuire. Tino Martinez not thought of, however, as a replacement player.
1-1 is curling towards center. And Abreu scooting back. Pujols is tagging at second. He's going to try for third. And he will make it in there. It'll be runners at the corners, 1 out.
Sometimes flair is not something that can affect the ball game. But on that particular play, Abreu with a little too much flair. You know, prancing back instead of getting back and coming in on the ball. If he catches that ball coming into the infield, maybe Pujols doesn't go to third base. But since he's back on his heels, it's an easy call. You take third easily.
That gives Edgar Renteria a little bonus RBI opportunity here. Fly ball of any depth.
A freebie, as the hitters say. Free chance to pick up an RBI. You can do it on a fielder's choice. An error.
Well, Renteria has been finding ways to make it happen all year. He's been very good with runners in scoring position. He's leading all National League shortstops in batting average. There's that fly ball to center field. Abreu has it. Pujols is tagging. And the throw coming in, that's going to be cut off. 2 fly balls to center. And St. Louis has the lead.
I have a question for you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Why does Renteria have a sacrifice fly and Tino Martinez doesn't?
Ooh, I know. Can I? Because of what you said earlier about the Abreu thing?
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Tino Martinez fly ball to center field was as important for the Cardinals to score the run as Renteria's fly ball to center field, yet Renteria capitalizes on it.
You can't take that to arbitration, though, can you? There's no statistic that will help Tino Martinez there.
Everything we bring up on this broadcast today will be strike-related. Everything.
No freebies. That was a good one.
I've often said that more things should be taken into consideration seriously. Man on second, nobody out. If a guy is showing that he's pushing the ball to the right side in a tie ball game, a one-run game, or things of that nature, to get the runner to third, perhaps there should be dialogue for that player getting a sacrifice.
You and I talked about this one a couple weeks ago. A catcher would love to be able to throw out that wild pitches saved number come arbitration time, too.
You know, many incongruities in the game that make fodder for talk. That's all. Maybe that's all.
Anybody want to come out on deck, by the way?
Should be out there.
DeFelice up over top, 2-1.
Since the player on deck is the starting pitcher, I think both managers would be understandable. It would be understandable. Third time's a charm, isn't it? For them not to protest a pitcher being out there. Well, I'll tell you, this broadcasting business is great, isn't it? All you have to do is put words together. Have 2, 3 chances.
Runner goes. DeFelice bangs it back this way, toy boat. Well, you don't blame the pitcher for seeking some shade, a little bit of shelter right now.
No, that's
92
true.
degrees, 90% humidity.
See, we talked about the fly ball center field with a man on second, given a sac fly. Never heard of that, right? Well, we never heard a heat index until the last few years either. And the heat index today, well over 100.
Two-two delivery. On the ground to third base and smothered over there. The short way to second. Very nice play by Polanco, the former Cardinal. The Cardinals do get the lead, though, a run. And we'll be back in just a moment. Baseball being brought to you by KFC. There's fast food, then there's KFC. And by Old Navy Rugbies, now available for your whole bunch. In Philadelphia, Jason Simon-Tachi is on the mound for the Cardinals today, trying to reverse a trend in Pennsylvania. Things have been going south for him of late. He's got a 1-0 lead right now. And Jeremy Giambi digging in. Jeremy Giambi, 18 home runs this year between Oakland and this latest stop, the Philadelphia Phillies. Some more first pitch swinging. This ball deposited down into the crowd.
That's something that goes in the Giambi family, even though Jason, who was the first baseman with the Yankees, with a little better eye than his brother Jeremy.
Giambi, always very deep in the shadow, obviously, of his brother. The flickering moments of fame, something he really didn't want last year in the playoffs, Game 3, when he failed to slide. And the Yankees and the A's had things turned in that game. The fly ball out, and quickly for a game break. Let's go to Jeannie Zelasco in L.A.
Well, Josh, a strike can cut short Sammy Sosa's bid to become the first hitter to reach 50 home runs in 5 seasons, with August 30th looming. Here's home run number 43, bottom 1. He's now tied with Lou Gehrig for 18th on the all-time list. 2-zip Cubs, top 2, Josh.
Jeannie, thank you. Strike could also cut short the paychecks of everybody parking cars out there at Wrigley. And very interesting to hear from both sides on the Radio Shack pregame show today. Check the home run leaders. Sammy Sosa now up to 43. A-Rod hit a game winner last night. He's at 39. But I guess, Tim, if we can paraphrase what both sides were telling Kevin and Jeannie before the game, and this is kind of a broad piece of paraphrasing. Blah, blah, freaking blah. Get it done. Billions, jillions, quadrillions, divided up. Let's go.
Bill Giles, the chairman of the board, who had his first hole-in-one yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. In a golf tournament held by Darren Dalton, Darren's honor. And I think everybody hopeful that congratulations, Bill, on your hole-in-one yesterday. Nice going.
You know,
respond, will you? Oh, you're welcome.
3 balls and no strikes to count. There's one in there to Polanco. You notice what Giles spelled backwards is, by the way?
Oh, very good.
Seelig. See, we can't escape this.
Now we have it coming and going. That is very, very clever. But I think everybody is hopeful. I mean, obviously, that a deal can be done. There was a very interesting article in the New York Times today by William Roden. And the title of the article was "In Defense of Players and the Game."
Glad somebody's defending the game. That ball is shot foul, 3-2.
Well, I mean, concerning the issues, Bill Roden writes, this date is less than 2 weeks from the anniversary of the World Trade Center attacks, and everyone is invoking September 11th as another reason the players should not strike. William Roden writes, there is no connection between the tragedy of September 11th and a baseball strike. And I agree with him. And he goes further to say that the tragedy of last year did not stop Boeing from laying off thousands of workers since September 11th. 624,411 jobs have been lost since 9/11. So it's wrong to put the onus only on the players. If the players strike, the owners are equally responsible. And right now, that is not popular to say that, but they are.
Polanco is shoving this one down the line. The count holds at 3-2.
I think it's easy to point the finger at the players by saying, how can a guy who averages $2.5 million a year even think about going on strike? Well, it's simply not that simple.
Can you do Jerry Lewis? That was pretty good. 3-2, another foul ball from Polanco.
Jerry Lewis will be doing Jerry Lewis in 2 weeks, the telethon. Labor Day telethon, the weekend that the players have set.
Well, we've all got something to watch then.
Well, to reinforce your point, I thought it was terrific at the pregame show and very good and very thorough questioning of Donald Fear and Bob Dupuy, the owner's representative.
Rolen, look at this. Cross diamond on the very field that he kept on doing that for the last 4 years.
Very nice play right there. Larry Boa saying that Scott Rolen, a better defensive player than Mike Schmidt. I have not seen enough of Scott Rolen to think that, because Michael Jack was the best third baseman in the history of the game.
Travis Lee takes outside. Travis Lee had a home run last night. First home run that Chuck Finley had allowed by a lefty in 50 starts. And you mentioned Mike Schmidt. He is here this weekend, and so are a lot of the other wonderful Philadelphia Philly alums over the last several years. Alumni weekend at the Vet.
Yeah, you may have think that I gave Michael those plaudits because somebody would send him the video. I didn't. I said that because he's right behind us. He's 5 feet away. But he is the best. He was the best third baseman in the history of the game. In my view, no contest. People could talk about Brooks Robinson and 16 Gold Gloves. You compare the offensive numbers, not even close. Scott Rolen, a brilliant defensive player. Compare the offensive numbers, not even close.
Simon Tachi missing away. Mike Schmidt and George Brett were taken back-to-back in the free agent draft about 30 years ago. That's two pretty good selections back-to-back. Fouled back by Lee. We will hear from Mike Schmidt in a little bit. We'll invite him down. How many stairs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stairs. He'll come all the way down to join us.
The only world championship in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies. National League Baseball played in this town for the first time in 1876. Long time ago.
The ground ball out from Travis Lee keeps this game 1-0. Fox Sports, home of the 2002 postseason and World Series, returns with Mike Schmidt after these messages from your local Fox station. Well, the Cardinals have won 6 out of 7. They lead the Phillies 1-0 today. We mentioned it is Phillies Alumni Weekend here at the Vet this weekend, and Mike Schmidt among the luminaries that has come back. He joins us in the booth right now, and this must be a lot of fun celebrating as we were talking about, the World Series win in 1980, but some other fun times too, I would imagine.
Sure, Josh, it is. It's nice being here. It's only taken me, 13, 14 years to get in the booth with Tim McCarver, who, by the way, is the greatest sports analyst, baseball analyst in the history of the game.
And you also are not saying that because you think I'm going to get a video, but because I'm right
because
next
you're here.
to you.
That's
yes,
right. You're right here.
That's the way it's done.
No, it is a great weekend, Josh. A lot of guys I haven't seen in a long time are here, and some exciting things happening here. You know, we're talking strike. Scott Rolen's back in town as a visiting player. Almost exciting. Hit a couple home runs last night in a home run hitting contest. That was like a dream.
Well, it was like a dream for me to be in Larry Boa's office today about 10 o'clock and have Mike, Greg Gross, John Vukovich, Greg Luzinski in there, among others, telling old war stories about times with the Phillies.
You know, Timmy, that truly is what it's all about. You know, if you could have taken all the 25 guys in the clubhouse, the young guys that are now playing, and brought them in as our audience, and they could have listened to that, then they could have really appreciated probably more the position they're in life as professional athletes.
And I asked you also, and you didn't answer me.
Simon Tachi bouncing one up the middle. The pitcher's got a hit.
I also asked you how far that pitch was outside that Stan Bonson threw you the next to the last day of the season in 1980, that you hit a home run to cap the division, to win the division for the Phillies, going into Montreal and having to win 2 out of 3.
Well, Tim, I don't know a lot of your national baseball audience that remembers that moment, but I know you and I do. It was a 2-0 slider right out over the plate, hooked it to left field, and I remember running around the bases nice and slow, and Pete was at home plate swatting for me.
Pete Rose was right there, but that ball had to be off the plate.
Oh, no. Bonson challenged me with a slider. Good old Stan. He lived down in Florida. He's a neighbor of mine.
Fernando Vina taking outside.
Remember taking the bus back to the hotel that night. Everybody, of course, was given the day off after a champagne-drenched celebration of sorts. You know who wanted to play the next day, who started the game? Pete Rose.
Fernando Vina towards left center. It is down for a base hit. Simon Tachi will pull up and stop at second. So once again, The Cardinals open up with 2 on, nobody out. And they can't be booing J.D. Drew with Mike Schmidt in the booth right now. It's just, we'll use the word incongruous for the second time today. 548 home runs during the regular season, Mike. Was number 500 the most memorable regular season home run? Because that's the one we always see the replay of.
Well, I would think so. Yeah, you do. 500 is a pretty exciting number for a player. Of course, Barry just hit his 600th. You know, and I guess I could go back and think of a few in my life. That you just brought one up earlier, Timmy, the one in Montreal, the one in the division in 1980. I have a couple World Series home runs, and I hit a lot of those. A couple thousand of those.
J.D. Drew to right field, and it's going to be first and third with 1 out, as again Jeremy Giambi tried to make the play in. Here's the flashback. And we don't have Harry Callis's great call, but I'm sure you've got it memorized anyway.
Michael Jack, yeah. Yeah, it was toward the end of the career, 1980, what is 87 in April. The team was 1-8 at the time, Timmy, and we needed a game-winning home run, so that's what made it special.
Well, I remember number 1. I'll tell you that because I called it back in 1973 off Baylor Moore in this ballpark.
You also caught my first base hit the next year, the drag bunt with 2 outs. Scipio Spinks on the mound.
That's exactly right. And I was screaming at Mike from the dugout. I was with the Cardinals at the time, screaming at him to swing the bat, will you? And he had this quizzical look toward going back to his position. And I was on the second step, not the top step, but the second step. I didn't know him from Adam. But things were a little heated that night, yes.
Yeah, I learned you're not supposed to bunt with 2 outs and nobody on base.
That was a swing by Jim Edmonds, kind of, by the way. 0-2 the count. Tim McCarver chirping from the dugout. I've never heard of such.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's, Jim's having a rough series so far.
He is.
He and I just spoke for about a half hour in the Cardinals clubhouse. I don't know that he wants to have that conversation. He had a rough night last night and then tough start today.
Yeah, the worst thing that you can be caught in between as a hitter, and that's what appears to be Jim right now. Sometimes you just don't pick up the ball.
Well, it is 0-2 with runners at the corners.
Uh-oh.
To right field. That is the first hit on an 0-2 count that Coggin has allowed all year.
Nice going.
Where do you get those stats?
I have no life at all, Mike. 0 for
good one.
It was 0 for 25 before that one was pounded in a right, and that is one thing that Coggin has been known for this year. He helps himself out, does not let himself get beat, but he did that time.
Wow, that's in 70 innings of work. Nice going, partner. Easily, Vigna goes to third base.
Jim Edmonds is over there going, thanks for that 0-2 fastball right down the middle. I was struggling.
Albert Pujols to the plate. That means Scott Rolen moves on deck, and I know it's been, well, how should we put it, an awkward last 24 hours for Scott Rolen here. What did you tell him yesterday, Mike? I know you spent some time with him.
Well, I'm forever alone with Scott, talking about life and baseball. It seems like when we're together, he's a real conversationalist. I mean, be careful if you engage Scott Rolen in a conversation, because you're going to be there for a while. And that's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. He's interested in people and what they have to say. You know, he listens. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. And I have pretty much covered the whole thing with him in spring training. And, you know, the so-called $140 million contract that he turned down, and life in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia fans, the great team that he had a chance to be on here in Philadelphia. How would the season unfold? You know, there's another one of those balls I hit a whole heck of a lot.
Well, Roland's going to come up with a chance to produce now as the ball is gloved in shallow left field. Roland's got a 2-out RBI opportunity.
Yes, he does, and Albert Pujols, I don't think is too thrilled about that pop-up with men in scoring position.
You don't see Albert do that often. He is Prince Albert in St. Louis now.
Yeah, and you were commenting about this earlier, Tim. I was watching the Phillies clubhouse. Here's Scott coming to play. You know, you make a big issue about the fans in Philadelphia. If you fan the stands, you know, it's like a contest to these fans right now, whether you're a booer or a clapper. Unfortunately, the clapping doesn't, you know, have the same sound over the television that the booing does, and it's a little bit of a stronger
Good
sound.
point. Yep.
But there's just as many people clapping as there are booing. You know, Timmy, you remember this, and I know you know some players that went through this. When Pete played for our team, they booed him in every town he went to. Every time he came to home plate.
Except Philadelphia. As Pete used to say, I was never booed in a white uniform. And he was right.
No, that's exactly right.
Down the left field line, and now the Scott Rolen fans are being heard from. 1 run is in. Looks like 2 runs batted in for Scott Rolen.
Booing you as an opposing player is generally a sign of respect, because the fans are disappointed. And here's a kind of a ball right over the middle of the plate that he hooks down the line. That you know, they're afraid you're going to beat their team. You know, they don't like it when you come to home plate. They don't like you. It's not good when you're liked in opposing ballpark.
And Philadelphia fans have seen Scott Rolen and know how good he is, too.
Well, if booing is a sign of respect, boy, they got to respect the heck out of Scott Rolen. They were hooting and hollering as he came around first on his way to second. Now, all of a sudden, it is a 4-0 lead for the Cardinals. Dave Coggin looked like he might be able to sneak out of the inning with not too much damage done.
Well, quickly put the Rolen thing to bed. He is a great young man. Yeah, I think he'll find a home there in St. Louis. He's from that part of the country.
Jasper, Indiana?
Yeah, he wants to be on a ball club where he can just be kind of, you know, and he knows there's a responsibility that goes along with making that kind of money and being the great player that he is, but there's not many issues, right, around St. Louis as a ball player, other than we're a team, we're doing good, our fans love us. There's not a lot of you know, things in the papers that cause problems on a daily basis. Like, everybody's rooting for you in St. Louis. You know, it's a great place to play baseball.
Some think it's the best baseball town in the country, and I wouldn't disagree with that.
And Chicago's right there, too. I think people would know that the Cubs baseball is that way.
94 years since the World Series win.
Tino Martinez popping one towards shallow left. What a pleasure to have Mike Schmidt with us. Mike, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Thanks, Josh. All right, good to be with you guys.
Nice going, Michael.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Same here, baby.
Cardinals 4, Phillies nothing. Scott Rolen has indeed returned. Cardinals leading by the score by which they lost last night. 4-0 Phillies yesterday. It is 4-0 Cardinals today. We have, believe it or not, asked Michael Jack Schmidt to move down the couch on this talk show of ours. Andy Bennis is in the Cardinal dugout and is joining us currently. Andy coming off a 7-3 win against the Pirates a couple of days ago. Andy, nice job. Get that second win.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back out there.
Yeah, we had heard a couple months ago that, I mean, didn't the word retirement come out of your mouth at some point?
Well, I was at home for a month and wasn't doing a whole lot except taking my kids to school and going to t-ball practices and traveling with my 13-year-old baseball team and just being dad. And I was home for a month, and then I started working out, talked to Walt Jocketty, and things weren't going as well in the field as they would like. And I started working out and went on a rehab assignment to Memphis, and here I am.
Andy, while certainly being a father a worthwhile endeavor and doing all the things that dads do, I would imagine that being back in uniform was of paramount importance. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come back.
Well, yeah, I'm signed through this year and with an option for next year, and I love being at home. I have 4 kids, and they're all grade school age, and that was a lot of fun, but you only have a short window, as you know, to play, and I felt like I had something to add to the team, and I needed to go down to Memphis and get a little confidence back and make some good pitches and get some arm strength, and I did that, and been able to come back and compete and help this team. There's been a lot of shortage in pitching for us with things that have happened this year, so here I am. I'm doing the best I can to put my piece in every 5 days.
Did you follow the Cardinals on a day-to-day basis when you were out?
Yeah, I did. I followed them. It was a lot different watching on TV than actually being at the ballpark. But I wasn't doing any baseball activities. I was just like a fan, maybe a little bit closer than the fans are, but I kept in touch with a few of the guys and tried to encourage them, but I watch on TV and listen to you guys.
Following the strikeout of Pratt, Dave Coggin, the pitcher, is up in the count 1-0.
So what you're trying to say, Andy, listening to us, that drove you back in the uniform, right? This way you wouldn't have to listen to us anymore.
Yeah, I heard Joe Buck enough. I say that because he's not there. He's doing his football games.
I'm sure you hustled home to see the fourth quarter, to listen to Joe's big-time debut last night. He did great last night.
I'll tell you what, Joe is he's a very talented guy, and he's a pleasure to listen to.
He sure is, and obviously his dad was top drawer too. 2 balls to strike, the count to Coggin. We're visiting with Andy Bennis.
How about our new third baseman? He's some kind of player.
You guys liking him okay, huh?
Oh, he is such a good guy. Listening to Mike talk about him, I have boys that are 13 and 6, and if I bring him to the ballpark, I'd say, hey, watch Scott Rolen, watch the way he goes about things. This is the way a professional goes about his business and how he conducts himself. He is just unbelievable. He's just a top-notch guy, and Mike said he'll sit there and listen to you. He really cares about people. I'm a little partial to him because he's from Indiana also, and he's just a really neat guy, and he adds a huge dimension to our team, not to mention what he does on the field, but he's a strong presence in the clubhouse. And I was pitching the day that he showed up in Florida, and there was a serious buzz, just like there was when we traded for McGuire. And it's just a really neat fit for us. I think he's going to be in St. Louis for a long time, and the people already love him. There's not anything not to love about him.
Andy, when you were pitching during your career, had you heard of Scott back in Jasper, Indiana, perhaps as a Little League player or a Legion player?
Oh, yeah, I remember when the Phillies drafted him, his first day in a big league city was actually in St. Louis. They brought him into St. Louis to take batting practice to try to coax him into signing because that was one of his favorite teams growing up. And I remember seeing him, and Bobby Knight had recruited him to play basketball. And
what's that on your head, by the way?
Morris is trying to put gum on my hat. They're killing me. They're just jealous. Jealousy rears its ugly head once again. These guys, it's been really neat. These guys have really accepted me, and good teammates.
Looks like you guys have some fun. Wasn't that you tackling the Philly Fanatic about an hour and a half ago?
Yeah, the Fanatic's awesome. Been coming here for 13 years, and got him down, and then Vina threw the water cooler on him, so we had to go get some more ice water because it's smoking down here. But the Fanatic's awesome. He always has a lot of fun with us, and he was shooting his super soaker at us and springing the bench.
That mascot suit has got to smell choice right about now. 2-1 pitch is blasted back in the crowd again from Rollins. 2-2. Now, Andy, you still into the whole NASCAR thing too?
What's that?
Are you still into the whole NASCAR thing? I know you and McGuire
No,
hooked
not
up with
really. I'm just into baseball right now, just enjoying being on this team, and there are a lot of really good stories on this team. The guy on the mound for us right now has been an unbelievable story and a lot of fun to watch. He's given up a few runs lately, but he's back to throwing the ball the way he did early in the season, and he got to win his last game out, and just a great story.
Well, let the record show he has struck out 2 in a row since you've been chatting with us. If he strikes out the side, we might be encouraged to have you back in the 4th inning.
That'd be all right. I think he'd go along with that too. All right, we'll take that.
And
we got a guy with gold over there that can catch that.
Locks it up without a problem, even though the fans are giving him the business again. Andy, we'll check back in with you in a little bit. Thanks.
Take care, guys.
All right, appreciate it. 4-0 Cardinals. Time for the RadioShack.com trivia question. Who's the only player in either league to be named most valuable player the season after winning Rookie of the Year? I suppose that's in play for Albert Pujols of the Cardinals this year, Rookie of the Year last year. He's got Barry Bonds' endorsement as being a possible MVP this year, but there are other candidates out there too, including Mr. Bonds. Renteria out in front, and the 4th inning's underway. Albert Pujols does have a run scored in this game, having reached on an infield single. The story, though, continues to be Scott Rolen, and a little something for everyone here in Philadelphia. The cynics were able to kind of sarcastically cheer when he got hit by a pitch in the second inning. But then the Rolen fans got to shout when Rolen doubled in a pair of runs in the third. Up too high to Renteria from Coggin. Real Cormier in the Phillies bullpen. Tim told you earlier, you're only expecting 70 pitches max from Coggin today. That was about the 45th.
It's a tough job for any starting pitcher, and Vern Rule knows that. He was a fine starter, pitched against the Phillies in the 1980 series, one of the great postseason series ever. Phillies winning in 5 games. It's tough to go out there when you know you're only going to throw 70 pitches, because 70 won't normally get you through 5 if you have a tough time, and you've got to get through 5 to get a decision.
And Coggin has not won as a starter this year. He's made 5 starts, but we should point out one of those was against Tom Glavine. 2 were against Randy Johnson. That is drawing the short straw. Renteria hustling down the line, and he is going to be out at first base by half a step. Polanco takes care of him. The former teammates, good buddies. Now, next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, Troy Gloss and the Angels taking on Nomar and the Boston Red Sox. A crucial battle between two teams fighting for the postseason. Some of you might see Chipper Jones and the Braves taking on Shawn Green and the Dodgers. There's other regional action, too. It all begins next week with This Week in Baseball at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central. DeFelice clips one foul.
Good play by Polanco, and there are a lot of people in Philadelphia that think a Gold Glove should be won by Travis Lee. Cheating on that play to just get the call at first base. Travis Lee, yes, he is that type of first baseman. Gold Glove is being talked about for Travis. He had a 3-run home run in last night's ball game, a game won by the Phillies behind Randy Wolf. Larry Boa saying today that Travis Lee could be a 40 home run guy, which came as a surprise to me.
And for a guy who's currently got 9.
Yeah.
But you make a good point. The Phillies are second in the National League in fielding percentage. That's another one of those stats that nobody seems to quantify. How many times Lee saved somebody's bacon over there at first?
Fielding percentage, Josh, with range. We talked about on-base percentage earlier, and it's one of those statistics, on-base percentage and fielding percentage, that it's covered up in baseball. It's made to look more important than it really is by we in the media. But when you have fielding percentage plus range like Rolen had at third base, like Rollins had at shortstop, Marlon Anderson, a fairly good second baseman, but Travis Lee, excellent at first base. Then you have the combination of the right things. You have sure-handedness plus range, and that's very, very important. Just to be, for instance, the best in fielding percentage means that you may not get a lot of balls, may not have an opportunity to make an error on a ball.
You hear that scouting report quite a bit. This guy makes every play on the balls that he gets to.
Yeah.
But that's the key. If he's not getting to any, then maybe he's not who you want out there.
A great example of that 2 generations ago was Ernie Banks. Ernie had marvelous hands, but there were a lot of balls at shortstop that he didn't get to. But when he became a first baseman, people realized the type of shortstop he was. A guy with a lack of range but great hands. He was able to use those hands at first base and receiving the ball. But as a shortstop, limited range.
3-2 is fired in there. Strike 3 on DeFelice. Well, the other thing, just to put a cap on this subject, too, that I would suggest to you, as we look at strike 3 to DeFelice again, knowing how to position yourself. And I think of a guy like Cal Ripken, who was here to record the final out of the '83 World Series, a little line drive to short. Maybe that play a pretty good example. I mean, Cal always seemed to have a knack for being in the right place so that he didn't have to range over too far.
Cal, by the way, the Rookie of the Year the year before the 1983 World Series.
You are dangerously close to giving away the trivia question, but you jump back.
Good.
Very nicely done. 1 ball, 1 strike to count. And Simon Tachi already with a base hit and a run scored. More importantly than that, he has pitched very well. And looking for another base hit, but it is grabbed, fumbled, no play as it turns out for Marlon Anderson. Now there's
an example.
A perfect example.
You got it.
Anderson was playing. I mean, look, he was positioned just fine, but he did not make this play. And he had time to recover because that's the pitcher going down the line.
He overran the ball. He ran too far to his right. The ball came back a little. Watch it come back to handcuff Marlon Anderson. And it will be scored an error on the usually proficient Anderson.
Now the other second baseman gets a chance to swing. That's Vigna.
We talked to Mike Schmidt last inning, and Mike was showing me a bat earlier in the Phillies clubhouse. And it was a bat made of maple, and he was talking about not only the wood but the finish on it, and making the point that a lot of people talk about baseballs and how tightly wrapped they are, and they probably are. But what about the bats that players are using today? Ultra hard.
We'll get back into that too in just a moment. No runs in despite the error, and we go to the bottom of the 4th in Philly. Back to the RadioShack.com trivia question today. The only player in either league so far to be named MVP the season after winning Rookie of the Year was indeed Cal Ripken in, well, 82 and 83. And we'll see if Albert Pujols can pull it off for the Cardinals this year. Tim, you were just talking about the harder maple finish on a lot of these bats that these guys are using. Plus, they double and triple dip them in lacquer, it seems, as well.
Right. Yeah, the bats that are used by major league players now, interestingly, rarely splinter. They will, when you see a guy hit on the handle, you'll see the barrel of the bat, the big part of the bat, often with a guy, the big part of the bat going out toward the infield, often with the guy with the handle just walking to first base or running to first base. You don't see the bat splinter to where it's it splinters up the bat when it breaks. It breaks off now, and that is an indication, I think, of the type of wood that's used, maple as opposed to ash.
And the idea for the new maple bat, we're told, had its genesis up in an Ottawa, Ontario, Canada tavern. A guy named Sam Holman was drinking there with Bill McKenzie, then a scout for the Colorado Rockies. And the story goes that McKenzie turned to his friend and said, "Hey, you're a wood guy. Do you think anyone could make a stronger bat? You see so many breaking these days." So this carpenter, Mr. Holman, went home and he carved a bat from a maple post that used to belong to his staircase. And he drove down to Toronto, and I'm sorry to bring up Joe Carter here in Philadelphia, but he got Joe Carter to try it out in batting practice, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Joe Carter with the 3-run home run off Mitch Williams, a down and in cut fastball to win the 1993 World Series for Toronto.
And the man who gave a ringing endorsement to the maple bat that you're right, we see so much of now.
Yeah.
Simon Tachi down too low. It's 2-1. Marlon Anderson, Bobby Abreu, Pat Burrell here in the inning against Mr. Simon Tachi. Signore Simon Tachi.
In that World Series in 1993, there was a huge mistake made by the managers. Cito Gaston. Couldn't think of Cito's first name. Cito Gaston in Game 4 with the Blue Jays up 2-1 and the Blue Jays trailing by 5 runs in the 7th inning. Tony Castillo, a reliever, was allowed to hit for himself.
Anderson is swinging and pops it up on 3-1.
And the Blue Jays came back to score 7 runs in the 7th and 8th innings. They won the game 15-14. That put them up 3 games to 1. Curt Schilling of the Phillies came back the next night, pitched a shutout, and that set the stage for Mitch Williams throwing the pitch to Joe Carter. But game 4, mismanaged by Cito Gaston, but all's well that ends well as far as the Blue Jays were concerned.
That's the same game that Stottlemyre cut up his chin, belly flopping into third base, I believe.
That's right. That's right. I think Todd started that game, did he not?
Against Tommy Green, who was in the ballpark as part of Alumni Weekend today. Simon Tachi has been in important games, not World Series yet, but he really started making a name for himself in the Olympics. Pitching for the Italian team. There's Renteria behind the bag. And Bobby Abreu is out.
Talked about positioning one more time. Renteria makes it look easy because he was stationed properly. The ball by Simon Tachi. Almost a skate save. Why would a pitcher go after it with his foot? Well, just a reaction. Because if it hit his foot, it's a base hit. Nice play by Renteria.
Still just the 1 hit allowed by Simon Tachi. Marlon Anderson had that double in the first inning. And that's the ball that Jim Edmonds came close to catching. Remember, he was charging in on it, and it kind of short hopped him. Burrell is out in front. Pat Burrell making a run at a 40 home run season. As you see Brandon Duckworth up in the pen now for Philly. Athanase, he got him. Simon Tachi. Another strikeout, and still the 1 hitter intact. Coggin and Brandon Duckworth have flip-flopped from the rotation out to the bullpen, and they are following each other now in this game here today. Coggin, normally the bullpen guy, went the first 4. Now, for the first time at the major league level out of the bullpen, comes Brandon Duckworth.
Brandon, 26 years old. He's from Salt Lake City, and it was his turn to start today, but Vern Rule, the pitching coach, Larry Boa, the manager, thought this might be a wake-up call, and that's why they limited Coggin, a guy who was in the bullpen for the most part all year. Kind of say, hey, Brandon, shake yourself. You do have a job. May have lost it temporarily, but now's a chance to get righted.
The Yankees doing that with Jeff Weaver on somewhat of a larger scale right now.
Right.
So it is now Brandon Duckworth against Jason Simon Tachi as your pitching matchup, 4-0 St. Louis. We've got both of the pitchers in the game from little colleges in Idaho now. Duckworth attended the College of Southern Idaho. Simon Tachi, the only major leaguer ever out of Albertson College in Caldwell, Idaho. And Simon Tachi has kind of stolen a lot of the thunder here today. Scott Rolen has been heard from for sure. He's got a 2 RBI double. But Simon Tachi spinning a 1-hitter. And Tim, we talked about the need for a turnaround for Simon Tachi. Scott Rolen, sure, has been able to come here and do some things. He's got 3 hits in the series. He, too, has turned his season around.
Did you notice that by-play between Rolen and Edmonds? Edmonds checking with Rolen about Duckworth, and you could see Duckworth, or you could see Rolen giving that little hand to the outside. It means a tailing fastball, the 2-seam fastball. Just a little reminder to make sure where he got traded midseason can really help the hitters of the team he's on. Now he's talking about that's a fastball. One is a cutter, one is a sinker.
He's already hearing the name Benedict Arnold from a lot of these fans to begin with, and now he's in there sharing trade secrets. That is certainly allowed, and that is actually expected. When you join your new team, you've got the goods on the team you used to be with. Rolen simply in an impossible situation here in Philadelphia. Everybody knew he had to go somewhere. St. Louis seems to be a pretty good fit. Drew hacks one just foul down the line. Now, we mentioned, you know, in earlier Cardinals Phillies games, J.D. Drew was the sole recipient of all of the fans' displeasure. Now they'll rock and roll him a little bit as he takes a called third strike. And on the subject of rock and roll, our Pepsi fan cam. You might have heard something about Elvis this weekend. We thought we'd play along.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there and they began to wail. The band was jumping and the jump began to swing. You should have heard the knocked out jailbird sing. Let it rock. Everybody let it rock.
Edmonds taking down too low.
Interesting choice for our fan cam today. Jailhouse Rock. Now, Elvis had a lot of other songs that he made famous.
Only one of them did number 47 say anything to number 3, though. And that was the one. 1 ball, 1 strike to Edmonds. I saw your knees moving during that song.
Oh, yeah.
Jelly leg going.
Oh, yeah. My hair grew. Thank you very much.
Tim McCarver, a hunk of burning love.
Yeah. Well, just like the Ed Sullivan Show, they have to shoot us only from the waist up here at the booth. Too much controversy.
Yeah.
Yep. Only your partner knows.
We have to stay way on the other side of the booth from each other, too. Edmonds looping one towards left center. Abreu coming on. He won't get it, but he does smother it out there. Edmonds going for 2.
Outstanding.
And he is in there. Outstanding both ways. You had Abreu clamping down on it in left center field. And you had Edmonds turning it on to get to second base.
Well, the good base runners say, even if you throw me out, it's a good play. How many times when you think about the course of a season with all the baseball games that you see, does an outfielder throw out a runner? Rarely.
Mm-hmm.
Edmonds knows that. It just keeps right on going. The Cardinals are ahead. You take more chances ahead. Good play.
You got to get up from out of this slide, collect yourself quickly if you're Bobby Abreu, and as you can see, Edmonds almost was able to get up and go to third.
Well, again, I mean, Edmonds realizes all the things that Abreu has to do to get up to throw him out to make the strong throw, and that's another reason he took advantage of it.
Edmonds was taken advantage of earlier in this game. The only Phillies hit looked a little something like that. So an RBI chance now for Pujols. 1 for 2 this afternoon. Larry Bowa's team has escaped the cellar for now. They're getting close to 500. They're 59-62.
That's after starting out 8-18.
Another harmless pop-up from Pujols in his shallow left. And that'll be Pat Burrell to put it away. Well, Scott Rolen's coming up. Again, the fans acknowledge him. And it's been a little bit of everything for Scott Rolen today. After he made an error yesterday, he's been just fine at playing third. He also pounded one down near third for a double. All Already 2 runs batted in for Rolen today. He takes a strike. You know, Phillies general manager Ed Wade actually said a few days ago that this is, quote, just another series. Trying to downplay the return of Scott Rolen.
Yeah, it's a normal comment with a guy like that traded for. Larry Boa made a similar statement.
You and I talked about this, though. It's like saying Custer's last stand was just another horseback ride. To these fans, this really means something, Rolen coming back.
Sure. Especially, as you pointed out earlier, on Alumni Weekend.
Yeah. A very recent alum. He was playing for the Phillies just a couple weeks ago. One offering comes, and it gets away. Todd Pratt had it rattle out of his glove, and down to third goes Jim Edmonds.
Probably a pass ball on Todd. That ball did not hit the ground. Sometimes on days like this, you get a little lazy with your hands. It looked like he went to his left initially, and by going to his left, made it a little tougher to come back to his right. Pass ball on Todd Pratt.
Scott Rolen coming on. 12 hits in his last 7+ games now. You know, he began his time in St. Louis in a 2 out of 32 slump, Tim. But keep in mind, when McGuire got traded over to St. Louis, his first 30 out at bats were pretty lousy too. He ended up doing okay. In for a strike.
Well, McGuire, a totally different type player than Scott, and that Scott adds as much defense as he does offense. McGuire is strictly an offensive player, but a punishing offensive force. Scott can give you so much more with his arm, with his base running, excellent base runner, obviously his defense and power.
You mentioned it earlier. The pertinent question is, how much longer will he be giving it to the St. Louis Cardinals? He is not signed for next year. You can see what we're talking about coming on. 12 for his last 24. They're wanting the fan to throw that foul ball back, and here it comes. That happened last night, too. Rolen sent one into the crowd, and after some gentle urging, there's an editorial comment. They say, we don't even want your foul ball, Scott Rolen. Now the fan gets a standing O.
That'll show him, boy, will it ever.
The walk. Well, like we say, a little something for everyone regarding Scott Rolen here. They've had a chance to boo. Those who have wanted to have done that. Those that wanted to cheer have had a chance to do that. Not quite as much majesty as throwing one back at Wrigley after the opposition hits a home run, but
no. Nor did they throw it in the same vicinity. Here the ball was thrown in the middle of the infielder, or the middle of the infield where Brandon Duckworth was. Duckworth saying, what happened? Where'd that ball come from?
The way the season has gone for the Phillies, I mean, had the ball struck him in the elbow, that wouldn't have been beyond the realm. First and third for Tino Martinez. The Cardinals trying to pull further ahead. Up and outside.
That ball with Duckworth landed right there. At Wrigley Field, they throw it in that area. So at least it's out of harm's way. That ball landing about 10 feet from Duckworth.
1 ball, 2 strikes to count to Martinez.
Ball had some nasty downward action. A good moving fastball from Brandon Duckworth.
Is that what Scott Rolen was attempting to describe earlier?
I think so, yeah. It's usually the motion for a two-seam fastball. Either that or somebody giving directions in South Philly. Hey, just go down to Patterson, take a right.
I could have used that yesterday, actually. 3 laps around the hotel. The pitch. He is in the dirt. Well, what a fun city this is, though.
No, it's a great sports town. A lot of people, I think we talked about it briefly last week. Philadelphia gets a bad rap because of the booing. I think a lot of the booing comes out of frustration, like, I suppose, other booing.
Martinez whacks it into right center. He's got a base hit. Another run in. Rolen turns it on and goes to third. 2 hits and a walk in the inning. It is 5-0 Cardinals.
You talked earlier about the recipient of a lot of RBIs because of Scott Rolen with the Cardinals. And here's an indication. Rolen walks with 2 outs, and it's Tino Martinez who picks up the run and not Scott Rolen. Rolen giving the Cardinals much more balance in their offense.
And the Cardinals are trying to shake both the Astros and the Reds in the National League Central. Pitching, of course, will be an issue. Renteria takes a strike, and again, not to beat this thing down, but that's why it's so big for Simon Tachi to come out today and show that he's still got some of that May-June Simon Tachi in him.
Sounds like somebody who's over-imbibed. The May-June Simon Tachi.
Renteria flies to right.
He's still got it in him.
Fortunately, he can be treated for that these days. 5-0. St. Louis. Rolen's return. Saturday Baseball is brought to you by Trident White. Trident White, smile brighter. By Pepsi-Cola. Experience the joy of Pepsi. By Sprint. Experience a clear alternative to cellular today. And by Nike. Along with Tim McCarver, Josh Lewin in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Jason Simon Tachi with a 1-hitter through 4 innings. The Phillies with a 4-0 victory yesterday behind Randy Wolf. Simon Tachi, though, for the Cardinals, has been the man dominating the proceedings on this very warm afternoon. Now, is Jeremy Giambi not 1/8 Italian like Simon Tachi? Could he not have been eligible for the Italian Olympic team? Only Simon Tachi got to go.
Well, Jeremy involved very much in the major leagues at the time. I guess that's why Jason. Jeremy had another job. Jason making $1,800 a month. That included, it did not include a cell phone, an apartment, and an automobile when he pitched for the Italian national team, pitching against the United States in 2000 at Sydney.
That's where he caught the eye of the Cardinals. They invited him to start this year at AAA. Here he is as their #2 starter at the big league level now. Tony La Russa has said it often. He doesn't even want to ponder where they would have been without Simon Tachi. Down too low to Giambi. The changeup that has been really the most impressive pitch for Simon Tachi. He developed that pitch while over in Italy. Now the 2-1 moves him off the plate. 3 balls and a strike.
JFE in tribute to John Francis Buck, who passed away last month.
Golfed into the crowd. A Hall of Fame Cardinal broadcaster, of course, a Hall of Fame Philly broadcaster, just celebrated in Cooperstown not too long ago. Harry Callis. We're giving away Harry Callis bobbleheads here tomorrow.
They are indeed. And it will include his longtime partner, Richie Ashburn.
Harry and Whitey. They've got Harry holding a microphone and Richie Ashburn holding a pipe. Fittingly, 2 bobbleheads for the price of 1 tomorrow in Philadelphia.
That, by the way, was not Harry Callis. That was Chris Wheeler and Scott Graham. They're probably on the air, and Harry will probably come back in the last 3 innings, as is the norm.
Yep, got a well-deserved inning off. So those guys describing Simon Tachi. And Simon Tachi described his whole trek to Italy and back for us. We talked to him yesterday.
They gave me a call and asked me if I had if you know, my name obviously was Italian, if I could prove it and how long down the line was it in the tree. And so I called up my grandmother and she sent me all the family tree notes and everything, and my great grandparents, and they somehow found it and found the records and got me to be Italian.
I just love that soundbite. That is just so innocent. Terrific.
Polanco trying to drop one into right center. Vigna over his shoulder makes the catch. Now, as you can imagine, Simon Tachi's taken a lot of good-natured ribbing about the whole trip to Italy and back. Steve Klein decided to stop by and do a little ribbing.
I just think they didn't have enough guys to play, so it's like the Jamaican bobsled team. I think they just started, asking guys if they're Jamaican to throw them out there.
Steve said it's like you too may already be Italian. Because he wasn't sure. But he was very happy to get that experience in the Olympics. And obviously it's helped him get to where he ultimately wanted to be. That's the major leagues. Travis Lee with a very high pop fly. Scott Rolen's going over. Scott Rolen makes the catch. It has been a long, strange trip for Jason Simon Tachi.
Along with some of those minor league stops, see the Venezuelan Winter League, been released by 3 teams. He's played with the Hickory, North Carolina Crawdads and the Lansing, Michigan Lugnuts, one of my favorite sobriquets for minor league teams. The Lugnuts of Lansing. That, of course, being a big automobile-making area, so Lugnuts, very appropriate up in Lansing.
And the fans are encouraged to cheer on the team by saying, "Go nuts!" Todd Pratt taking outside. That'd be a good name, working title for Simon Tachi's book if he chooses to write one.
Yeah.
From a crawdad to a lugnut to the major leagues. Now a little French-Canadian for you, Rael Cormier in the bullpen. Pretty nice pitch right there. 1-1 the count to Pratt.
That was a slider down out of the strike zone, so Simon Tachi in the heat. Still maintaining good stuff.
Pratt a strikeout victim in the 3rd. And he clubs one back into the crowd. Count down to 1-2.
It's often good to follow an off-speed pitch with the fastball. And the reason for that is the off-speed pitch has slowed the bat down. So that's when you could throw a ball in an area where a hitter is normally strong in. So off-speed pitch slows the bat down, and then you throw the fastball, and Pratt fouls it back the other way. 2 off-speed pitches, 3 off-speed pitches in a row. The more you throw in a row, the better the succeeding pitch has to be.
Pratt able to get a piece of that one that was sinking down.
Remember, Cardinal manager Sally Hemus said that Bob Gibson would never be a winner in the major leagues because all of his pitchers are the same speed. We used to kid and say, "Sally, get a bat."
Yeah, Bob Gibson did okay.
Did all right.
Another foul from Pratt. Ricky Leday, you might have seen, has moved on deck in the pitcher's spot in the order.
It's just interesting to, when you talk about pitching, how many different varieties of pitchers that there are. Johnny Sain, very successful major league pitcher, used to say that pitching's the art of fooling the hitter. Bob Gibson never fooled anybody. He overpowered hitters. Andy Bennis, when he was young, overpowered hitters. But now he has to become a pitcher more like Simon Tachi because he doesn't have the power that he had.
Pratt continues to work up there, moves the count to 2-2.
And the biggest indicator of how successful a pitcher is the hitter. It's not a pitch count, not a pitching coach. It's how a hitter reacts to what the pitcher's throwing. It sounds so simple, but you would be surprised how many people in uniform forget that.
Neither man in any real hurry here. We'll see a 7th pitch of this at bat. Giambi again chased back to first. He was on with the leadoff walk. The only walk Simon Tachi's allowed today. Cardinals had a big inning in the 3rd. They put a 3-spot up. Remember last night, it was a 4-hit shutout against them. Got him. And the long at bat finally ends. Todd Pratt has struck out twice today. Simon Tachi, the one-hitter, continues. Cardinals lead by 5. Well, assuming that indeed Brandon Duckworth wanted to keep on working in this game, he owes a debt of gratitude to his battery mate Todd Pratt for striking out to end that inning. Had Pratt gotten on, Ricky Leday would have pinch hit, and Brandon Duckworth would not be in this game anymore. But he is out there for his 2nd inning of work. He'll face Mike DeFelice, then the pitcher Simon Tachi. A big breaking ball for strike 1. We'll also revisit with Andy Bennis in this inning. Andy adjusting the earpiece currently. DeFelice pokes one out of play.
Andy, adjusting the earpiece like you've had to adjust to a different style of pitching. We talked about it the last half inning. It's certainly true when you don't have the sinker, the fastball that you once had. You have to move the ball around, change speeds, and what have you.
Yeah, no question. I think really, I think you can really overpower the hitter with your location. And you talked about it earlier. A lot of guys overpower people just with their stuff. They throw hard, and the hitters have to gear up for that. But you throw enough sliders and curveballs and changeups, that 88-mile-an-hour fastball looks like it's about 95, and especially when you get it in on guys. So I really believe, you know, most of the guys have to go out there and pitch, change speeds and locate, and I'm in that boat.
There are very few major league hitters who cannot catch up to a major league fastball, right, if you continue to throw it.
Yeah, no question. I know when I came back, they said, well, you're only throwing 87, 88 miles an hour. And we were in L.A., and a guy was throwing 96, and we got 6 runs off of him in 1 inning. So I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. I think you throw it 88 miles an hour, and you can throw it on both sides of the plate, keep it down, throw it at the knees. It's going to give guys a lot of trouble, and you can be overpowering in that way. Just like Jason's doing today. He's moving the ball around. He's changing speeds. He's throwing 90 miles an hour. And they have 1 hit through 5 innings.
Meantime, Mike DeFelice strikes out. Simon Tachi will get a chance to show off his Andy Bennis-style hitting prowess now. We should mention Andy Bennis is one of very few pitchers in baseball history to hit a home run in 3 different decades. And we'd be remiss if we didn't point out you've put this stadium in your book a couple times, have you not?
Yeah, I like hitting in a stadium. I don't know if it was the pitcher or just got lucky a couple times. I know it's a fun place to hit. The ball typically during the daytime will fly pretty good, and I've been fortunate enough to put the barrel on a few of them in this place.
3 of Andy's 7 career home runs have been against the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, my very first one was in San Diego in 1989, and then I got 2 here in the vet. The one year I had 2 hits the whole year, and they were both here in this stadium in the same game, so that's a really bad year at the plate.
Is that something you still enjoy doing, though? I mean, you're National League guy pretty much all the way.
Yeah, being in the National League, you get used to it. Just watching Chuck Finley come over, it's a big adjustment for the American League guys to be able to go up and hit. Every once in a while I have to say, Chuck, you're on deck, because they're just thinking about pitching. But over here, obviously you have to be ready to hit. You have to run the bases when you make contact, and that can take it out of you.
Fernando Vina comes to the plate. Now, Andy, on and off the DL for you this year, and again, kind of in and out of retirement, too. An odd set of circumstances for you, but obviously for this team as well. The tragic death of Darryl Kile, and I know that continues to be something that on a day-in, day-out basis you guys think about. As a whole, is the team kind of moving on and rallying around that, or is it something that you don't really even think about right now?
Well, there are so many things that happen during the course of the day at the ballpark that remind each of us of DK. He was such a great teammate and a good man, and someone that was just really good for baseball. And so everywhere we go, we see signs that say DK 57, and so I don't think there's a day that goes by that we're not thinking about him and the memory of him, and just remembering what a great teammate he was, and what a neat person. You know, it was a tremendous loss to the organization. Just a really neat guy.
No, it's been very impressive to watch how you guys have kind of soldiered on and have also rallied to support the family, most importantly, as well.
Yeah, no question. The organization's really stepped up and has done a tremendous job with the Kile family, and just had an unbelievable tribute to him, a memorial service back in June, and I was privileged to be a part of that. And I think it just really has brought to light what's really important to each of us, and our faith and our families, and you know, what we do out here on the field is really it's important to us because it's our job, but it's not more important than those things. And life is just really precious. You never know when it's going to end.
Vina serves another foul ball out of play. Well, the Cardinals are compiling a memory book with letters and notes for Darryl's 3 children. And we understand that's going to be a very thick book right now. Fans that never met Darryl Kile, but have just been impressed with all the kinds of stories that you're telling, Andy.
Yeah, that'll be a really special thing. It'll be a really neat thing for the Kile family to have that book, and for a lot of us to be able to see. That'll be real special.
Brandon Duckworth ends up striking out the side. Andy, thank you again for joining us. Appreciate it a lot. Continued success to you. The Cardinals succeeding today, 5-0. Doug Glanville is going to pinch hit to lead things off here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Good to see Doug Glanville smile, actually, as the player rep for the Phillies. He's been doing nothing but fielding questions about the strike for the last 48 to 72 hours. A forgettable season for Doug Glanville, hitting just .215 and not walking nearly enough to hold his spot as a Phillies everyday leadoff hitter. There is conjecture that he will not be back. Robert Person figures not to return, and you know, right there, that's $10 million available to the Philadelphia Phillies to go out and import if they choose to this offseason.
They'll be able to do it in the new ballpark next year to give them more revenue. Well, that's actually 04.
Yeah, building towards that. You know, they want to have a decent team when they get there. Doug Glanville pegs it to center, and fighting the glare of the sun, it's Jim Edmonds. Glanville, a fun guy to talk to, very intelligent man, and a guy who had to learn baseball from his older brother. We talked to him about that.
My brother pretty much taught me the game. My father's from Trinidad. He played cricket, so there was a relationship. But when he came to this country and was raising us, my brother really took the guard in teaching me the game. And he's 7 years older than I am, and he loved baseball. So from the time I could walk, he put a bat in my hands and taught me a lot of different things.
If you think that he speaks eloquently, you're right. He's a University of Pennsylvania grad, an engineer, and once submitted, and the reason I brought that up about the new Philly ballpark that'll be here in another year and a half, he once submitted a thesis on a new stadium for Philadelphia. The only unfortunate thing is he put it right at 30th Street Station, where railroad tracks intervened, and found out that it would not be a working model. But he is a very bright guy, just a very engaging, charming person with whom to talk.
Simon Tachi to Rollins. Yeah, Glanville's conclusion, don't build it on Market Street.
No.
It is going up not too far from where we're sitting, though. On opening day 2004, they'll be ready to go. There are 100 games left for the Phillies now in Veterans Stadium. Again, assuming there is no work stoppage. Vina had it played very well. Back to take care of Rollins. Well, in April of 2004, the Phillies ballpark will look a little something like this. Doug Glanville did not make the computer simulation, we are told.
No.
Probably smart enough to pull it off, though. When Rolen was still with the Phillies, you know, between Glanville and Rolen, you had two guys whose combined SAT scores, Sam, were around 2,500.
Something like 750 for math alone. Isn't 800 the top score in math?
Can't do better than 800. Glanville and Rolen both just voracious readers. Catch him with books in the clubhouse all the time. It's not easy to be both a 300 hitter and an egghead in this sport, I would imagine. Rolen was reading a little Ayn Rand on a team flight a couple of years ago, actually a few years ago now. Teammate grabbed the book away, tore out the last 10 pages. Atlas shrugged, Greg Jeffries grabbed.
Either Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged, right? Wasn't that her other famous...
I just read the Cliff's Notes, so I'm...
Davey Johnson, an ex-major league manager while playing with the Phillies, used to read Louis L'Amour, a pretty good writer, and we used to tear out the last 10 pages of his books often.
Is that right?
And I told Davey once that, Davey, you ought to read something more sophisticated, like a classic. He said, I've read the classics, as though he read all of them. I questioned that. I said, like what? He said, War and Peace. I said, you read War and Peace? He said, sure, Toy Store. Leo Toy Store. Toystore. So therefore, I questioned whether he read War and Peace, thinking the author was Toy Store. That's a true story. Sorry.
It's up over top.
Leo Toy Store.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Fox Sports, home of the 2002 World Series, returns after these messages from your local Fox station. Jason Simon Tachi's got a one-hitter going for the Cardinals. Meantime, the Phillies are on their third pitcher of the afternoon. This is Carlos Silva.
Carlos 3-0 on the year. He has never faced the Cardinals, his 53rd appearance on the season. Simon Tachi has just been terrific to go out and to get a hot ball club. Remember, the Phillies had won 5 in a row coming into this game, but it's been all Cardinals since the first pitch.
J.D. Drew swatting one into the crowd. He'll be followed by Jim Edmonds and Albert Pujols, and then maybe Scott Rolen. Rolen has been on base 3 times today. Another one lifted into the crowd. J.D. Drew does have a base hit. But, Tim, there has been a real sorry lack of production from this 2 spot in the order for the Cardinals over the last couple weeks.
Sometimes an injury, and not making up for J.D. because we've had our say on J.D. Drew and his lack of apparent passion.
A little half-swing bouncer to short. J.D. Drew is out.
A guy who is tagged as a 5-tool player all along and has fallen on bad times.
You bet. Now, the NFL on Fox returns Friday. A preseason look at 2 of the elite teams. You've got Ray Lewis and the hard-hitting Ravens trying to slow down Donovan McNabb and the high-flying Eagle offense. It all begins Friday at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on Fox Sports. Cardinals and the Bears played a pretty interesting football game on Fox last night.
In St. Louis.
A thrilling finish. A very enjoyable 3-man booth, too.
Chris, Troy, and Joe.
Rams and the Bears.
Our football department, as everyone knows, is borrowing Joe Buck for 2 months till October in postseason play, if there is postseason play. So we are hopeful that Joe will be doing baseball in October and not football.
That's another reason to go ahead and settle this thing. We need Joe on baseball.
Right, right.
Edmonds cranks one to the net, and if you were with us for the Radio Shack pregame show today, you heard from both sides. Kevin Kennedy, Jeannie Zelasco chatting up both the owner's side and the player's side. Donald Fear was on for, well, several minutes. As long as they're all talking in a room with closed doors, that's fine with us. Jim Edmonds, a ground ball, quick bobble, and the recovery. And now 2 down. Well, the irony of a potential work stoppage on Labor Day weekend, too. Kevin mentioned the scary numbers, 8 for 8. 8 threats of strike, 8 actual strikes.
Yeah, but a guy can go 8 for 8 against a pitcher and then strike out the next time. So, I mean, you know, you can do a lot of things with statistics. But the very fact, again, that the one thing you have to keep in mind is that just because they picked a strike date, it doesn't mean that they'll strike. And the atmosphere for bargaining is better than it was in 1994. Policies are clearer, and we are hopeful, again, that the minds are clearer when they reach a decision prior to August 30th.
And it was good to hear Donald Fear say as much, too, that this time
I thought so.
You know, that
yes.
He doesn't get a sense that the owners are trying to break the union here. They're not trying to put the thing in the ditch.
It's negotiating.
Right.
It's not breaking a union. It's one has one stance, the other has another, and somewhere in between.
At second base, what a play. Leaping and throwing. Anderson did not get him. And the ball into the dugout. So down to second base is Albert Pujols.
Fine play by Marlon Anderson. The throw is low. It scoots past Travis Lee. It's very difficult for a catcher to get behind a first baseman backing up a play. But it was possible then. Todd Pratt slowed up thinking that that ball would have been handled. And then by the time the ball got by him, Todd found it going in the Phillies dugout. So a throwing error on Marlon Anderson. Second Philly error of the game.
Both of them on Anderson. And now Scott Rolen. Now Rolen, and again, trying to be kind about it, but also honest about it. I mean, yes, there's been the occasional smattering of "we still like you" kind of cheers here, but you're hearing a lot of booing too. Rolen may end up with the last laugh. He's already been on base 5 times in this series.
If I may for a moment get back to the strike situation that we were talking about, I think over the next couple of weeks, it strikes me, no pun intended, that the fans are going to have a very difficult time mortgaging their emotions. What do you do in the next 2 weeks if you're a fan? Do you root for a team, or do you say, well, I'll let them use my emotions for 2 weeks? You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, especially if you're a fan in Minnesota.
How involved, right.
Your team was almost blown up.
Yeah.
Now they're 11 games up, and there might not be a postseason. Go figure. Saturday Baseball is brought to you by Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball. With Tim McCarver, Josh Lewin, thank you for joining us on Fox today. The game summary brought to you by Clarinex, and Jason Simon-Tachi has earned top billing here today. The one-hitter, Scott Rolen, back in Philly, back on base 3 times today, 5 times in the series. It is 5-0 Cardinals right now. The Phillies coming up against Simon-Tachi. Bottom of the 7th in the thick part of the order. 3, 4, and 5 batters. Jason Simon-Tachi, like the temperature here in Philly in the mid-90s. For the pitch count, Steve Klein gets up in the bullpen. Remember, the only hit the Phillies have achieved today was a double by Marlon Anderson back in the 1st inning, a ball that Jim Edmonds almost was able to come in and get. He ended up short of hopping it. And when the ball squirted away from him, rolling slowly towards left, the single became a double. If Edmonds had been playing in just one more step back in the 1st inning, we'd be talking no-hitter right now.
Only 2 base runners for the Phillies today, other than that base hit. A walk to Jeremy Giambi to lead off the 5th.
One of the big bats on deck, that's Pat Burrell. So Simon-Tachi, has managed to steal away some of the headlines from Scott Rolen today. And as everybody talked about Rolen adding some needed punch in the lineup, the return to form of Simon-Tachi is what the Cardinals really need in that rotation.
For the Cardinals, they have the defense and the offense, with or without Rolen. But it's that pitching that has concerned Tony La Russa. 13 starters on the year. That's tied for the most in the majors.
Got him. Simon-Tachi strikes out another. That's 7 for him today. Scott Rolen continues to be in everybody's mind, even though Simon-Tachi is doing what he's doing today. We talked to Pat Burrell about what he got out of having Rolen as a teammate.
He helped me a lot when I got here, and I can't say enough good things about him because you go out there and you watch him play. I mean, I was fortunate to play behind him in left field, and I didn't get many balls hit to me on the ground. He was, I think he's probably one of the best to play the position. And a great team guy, so in one respect, you're sorry to see him go. And the other side, though, I think he's happier. I think he's happier not being here, and you have to respect that too.
The right he has after 6 years in the major leagues to be granted free agency, but it was a funny remark. Pat saying playing left field, he didn't get a lot of ground balls out there. Usually they have a place where it stopped before it got to left field, and that was Scott Rolen, and now Albert Pujols will have that same luxury for the Cardinals.
Here is Jeremy Giambi. Well, the first pitch strikes keep bringing in there for Simon-Tachi. He has 7 strikeouts today. That is a career high at the big league level.
pitching sometimes like an artist. And you can think of the pitcher as working his easel, and the easel being home plate. A little here, a little there, then you step back, you appreciate it, you look at it, a little here, a little there. Inside corner, Simon Tachi thought he had, but home plate umpire Wally Bell says no. Just an artistic work by Simon Tachi thus far this afternoon.
And you wouldn't have blamed him for wanting to kick that easel right over the last few starts. Just not going well for him at all. Giambi known to work the count quite well. That drilled into him from his days in Oakland. He's ahead 3-1. Cardinals fans enjoying it. The artwork on the easel right now, the 5-0 lead. Whoa. Easel come, easel go. A tremendous home run for Giambi. And the Phillies will not be shut out today. That's 19 this year for Jeremy Giambi. 10 is an A, 9 is a Philly. And as Simon Tachi gets up and over the 100-pitch mark, he finally has given up a run.
Jeremy Giambi just slashed the artwork.
The vandal.
Vandalizing a Simon Tachi piece of work.
Vina coming in.
Take it easy.
And will make the play on Polanco. 5-1 now. St. Louis.
Come, easel, go.
I'm still working on it. All right.
I love it.
5-1. 5-1 St. Louis as we get to the 8th. You're invited to show your support for your favorite team with the MLB Authentic Collection. Log on to MLB.com to order your player quality merchandise right now. Ground ball to second base from Tino Martinez. 1 pitch, 1 out. In the top of the 8th inning here in Philadelphia. The Phillies are at least on the scoreboard. Jeremy Giambi rocketed a home run with 2 out in the 7th inning. Only their second to hit all afternoon against Mr. Simon Tachi.
I've always thought that on hot days, real hot, uncomfortable, muggy days, it's more important to get on top early. Because then when guys get a little tired, then the pitching starts dominating the game as it has today. The Cardinals striking for 4 runs in the 2nd and 3rd inning. They tacked on 1 in the 5th. And then the Phillies with 1 in the 7th inning. But when you're in weather like this, it's harder to play catch-up baseball.
Dave Coggins' first start in really a few months. Forced back into the rotation with Brandon Duckworth being exiled to the bullpen.
I think on the muggier the day, the more you have to take a late inning mentality in the beginning of the game. Because if you don't strike first, then usually middle of the game where you're worn down, particularly following a night game. Got the regulars who are worn down from the night before, and the pitchers are fresh. Well, obviously, a decided edge pitching.
They'll be playing tomorrow afternoon, too. They expect a crowd of up and over 50,000 tomorrow. So you'll have the heat generated from the crowd. You'll have the 90-odd degree temperatures again tomorrow.
Double bobblehead doll day. Harry Callis and Richie Ashburn. Tomorrow, as Harry is honored, his selection as the Ford C. Frick recipient. There's Harry. Golden Pipes from 1970. We showed Bill Giles earlier. Bill was a business manager of the Houston Astros. He brought Harry here when Bill came. And Harry is the bedrock of Philadelphia baseball.
Back to the mound as Silva will take his time. Throw out Renteria. Well, you're right about the Golden Pipes. But, you know, I mean, Harry, even if he had the voice of Tiny Tim, I mean, he would be an outstanding announcer. I think too often people just, you know, they dwell on the voice because it is such a great voice. But heck of an announcer and a great guy, too.
Partner, we've worked our third straight game, and that's our first disagreement because I can't picture Tiny Tim as a play-by-play man.
I don't mean to have
That's the first that we've had our first spat.
We've had, well, fine, I'll go.
Tiny Tim tiptoeing through the spring tulips. No.
Not with McCarver.
Tiny, no.
I didn't say
No.
he'd have to have his ukulele in the booth.
Or get married in the booth. Didn't Tiny get married on the Johnny Carson show once?
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
I will agree to disagree. Our apologies to Harry for invoking the name Tiny Tim.
Really? Gosh. Wait till he hears this.
Oh, I'm trying to give the guy a compliment.
Harry, did you hear Josh Lewin yesterday?
Called you Tiny Tim?
Saturday game of the week, calling you Tiny Tim?
Criminy. The 3-0 pitch. Here's the strike on the outside corner. I'm holding on to my double bobbleheads now so they don't get repossessed. Well, congratulations, Harry. Very, very well earned. In fact, some would say overdue. Up and in. Silva with a walk. And Kerry Robinson is going to be announced as a pinch hitter now for Simon Tachi. So Jason Simon Tachi, 7 innings, as you say, Tim, on a hot day. A 2-hitter. It was a 1-hitter until that home run by Giambi.
Outstanding job by the Cardinal right-hander. Cardinals entering today's game 4 ahead of the Houston Astros, 4.5 ahead of Cincinnati. I guess between these two organizations, the year that stands out is 1964, when the Phillies led the Cardinals by 6.5 games with 12 games to play. 13 by the Cardinals. That's where the half game came in. Or no, it's 13 by the Phillies, 12 by the Cardinals. And the Cardinals came back to win it on the last day of the season.
In the last 33 games of that season, Jim Bunning started 10 times. Chris Short started 9 times. Plenty of 2 days rest things going for both. And the Reds were in that race, too.
Yeah. Reds were eliminated on the last day. The San Francisco Giants were eliminated the penultimate day of the season on Saturday.
That is some kind of race.
So there were 4 teams in it after 160 games had been played. Phillies were playing in Cincinnati on a Friday night while the Cardinals were losing 1-0 behind Bob Gibson and Al Jackson beating them for the New York Mets. The Reds were on top of the Phillies 3-0 in the bottom of the 6th inning when Chris Short threw one tight to Leo Cardenas, the shortstop. Cardenas charged the mound, and Jim O'Toole, the starting pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds, accusing Cardenas of being dumb, his words. At the end of the game, Cardenas took a butcher knife after him.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
Can you imagine in this politically correct age what would happen if somebody took a birthday butcher knife after you?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Robinson, the final out here in the 8th inning.
By the way, it was Frank Robinson who took the knife away.
Wow. 5-1. Saturday Baseball brought to you by WebMD, the place America comes for healthcare answers. By Taco Bell, think outside the bun. And by new Lotrimin Ultra, the only once-a-day cure for athlete's foot. Well, Jason Simon Tachi no longer in the game for the Cardinals. It is up to Mike Crudale to get the Cards on through the 8th. And Crudale with that sparkling 1.54 earned run average. Pitching not too far from here last year up in New Haven, Connecticut. Double-A for the Cardinals. One-time 24th round pick. Only 3 years ago, so he's really ascended quickly to help out this St. Louis team.
Because of the problems with the starters that Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan have had, they have had to utilize their bullpen in mix and match fashion. And it's not unusual to see the Cardinals not only not get a complete game, but to use 3-4 pitchers a day.
Travis Lee to begin things, and does so by taking a strike. Well, for Simon Tachi, a two-hitter. He walked only one. He struck out a career best 7. I think pitching issues really will be the issues, as you said earlier. The Cardinals trying to hang on in the NL Central. The Astros have that very exciting, very good young pitching. Cincinnati just picked up Sean Estes. Houston and Cincinnati, by the way, the two teams chasing the Cardinals, they play against each other 7 times this month.
Talking about those 3 teams, the Astros and the Cincinnati Reds have the fewest complete games in the National League. 1. The Cardinals, second with 2. To give you an idea of how much that both teams use their bullpen, and something you've heard, of course, it's a different generation, different way the game is played, but in 1968, Juan Marichal had 30 complete games. 30. Gibson had 28.
And now entire teams have 1 or 2.
Yeah. Leagues have 30 now. Right. Not players, not individual pitchers.
Well, and as recently as 1992, Tim, Major League pitching staffs averaged close to 17 complete games a year. We're not talking a generation ago. We're talking 10 years ago. Now we're down from 17 to probably half of that, if not more. Travis Lee flies to right. Those numbers get fluffed up a little bit because there are some guys in Arizona that tend to go complete.
Kurt Schilling with his 20th yesterday in Chicago. Kurt Schilling with 20 wins this year and 19 strikeouts. That just blows me away. 20 wins, 19 strikeouts. What?
20 wins, 19 strikeouts. Sir.
What? Can't do that. I said strikeouts. I beg your pardon. I meant walks. So 20 wins, 19 walks.
Yeah, a few more strikeouts.
I sit corrected. There we go. And 13.2 strikeouts for every walk. Just unbelievable.
Staggering. And of course, he bloomed here in Philadelphia. He started out with the Red Sox and the Orioles in the minor leagues, and things were not coming together for him at all. You talk about a late bloomer. There's a shot to third. It gets by Rolen. It gets down the left field line. Todd Pratt on his way to second base. There are stories about Schilling. You mentioned Frank Robinson just a little while ago, and Frank Robinson was in Baltimore as the manager, and Curt Schilling first came up. We'll get back to that in a sec. You watch this bullet down the left field line. But Schilling first showed up with this kind of greenish, bluish mohawk kind of thing in his hair, and Frank Robinson pulled him and his earring in and his mohawk. So let me tell you something. I don't care who you think you are. That doesn't play in the major leagues. You're not doing that. And it was still a couple years after that Schilling finally did begin to take his talent seriously.
He has grown up, I'll tell you that. Unfortunately for National League hitters.
Yeah. Well, that 1-2 punch makes him so dangerous in the postseason, as we found out obviously last year.
Plus, the Diamondbacks are a better team all around this year.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. Even though Luis Gonzalez is not having the year that he had, you have a guy like Junior Spivey, who is an all-star.
You look at Dan Plesac, who's been there, done that. He's in the bullpen.
You have a bullpen buoyed by Manti being back. Young Hyun Kim, after going through everything he went through last year with those 2 horrific losses to the Yankees in games 4 and 5 in the World Series, the 2 two-run home runs by Tino Martinez and Scott Brocious. If you can get by that, you can get by anything.
Dave Duncan will leave Crudell in the game to face a pinch hitter, Ricky Leday, his first game back since being there for his wife, who gave birth to a daughter named Teresa a couple of days ago. Congratulations.
Third child. I think if the Diamondbacks had to go into postseason without Damian Miller, that would hurt them a great deal. Bothered with lower back pains. They don't know how serious that injury is right now.
For Leday, first pitch swinging off the bench. And in right center field, it is Edmonds who collects it for the second out. Well, right now, the Diamondbacks have a very comfortable lead in the NL West. You've got the Giants and the Dodgers kind of jockeying with each other to be the wild card team potentially. Now, that's if the season ended today, and so much could change. But you might have the Diamondbacks and Cardinals again. Braves and Dodgers be a pretty interesting matchup if you're a Gary Sheffield fan. And unless the Twins are contracted between now and then, they'd be a pretty formidable foe for Seattle. That is a great story this year amid all of the labor unrest. You know, I mean, here's a team that was not supposed to exist this year. Baseball was set just to disband them, say go away. And they are marching steadfastly into the playoffs. Jimmy Rollins takes a strike on the outside corner, 1-1. The American League wild card picture very fuzzy right now. Anaheim is on top, but then again they could nudge Seattle into the wild card division. Angels and the Mariners are tied in the loss column right now. How about Mike Scioscia for manager of the year potentially?
I think if the season, I feel a little funny saying that if the season ended today, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
A wild card picture, Anaheim. Seattle, as Josh said, also has 48 losses. And Oakland and Boston, 2.5 and 3.5 respectively.
Boston, another one of those teams with a 1-2 punch that we talk about with Pedro and Derek Lowe. High to Rollins.
I think Pedro Martinez has been one of the big surprises in baseball, and nobody wants to talk about him as a surprise because of what he's done before. I mean, here's a guy that they didn't know how much they were going to get out of him this year with a sore shoulder.
Lost for the first time in 11 games yesterday. Rollins sending one to left. And that is going to do it here for the 8th inning. We go to the 9th. It is 5-1 St. Louis. Saturday Baseball is presented by Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball. In Philadelphia, the Phillies are trailing the St. Louis Cardinals 5-1. Dan Plesac takes over on the mound. Dan Plesac, who is now 40 years old and only the second most noticed Indiana native in the game today. We've talked a lot about Scott Rolen. Dan Plesac is from Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana.
My sweet home.
In the role of Winthrop, Tim McCarver today. That's the Ronnie Howard.
Ron
vehicle.
Howard.
Yeah.
I was going to say Ron Howard played that role in Music Man.
Whatever became of him?
I don't know.
Well, he just up and went away, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. That's a shame. Flash in the pan when he was young.
You'd think
now the poor guy is
right
facing oblivion.
I think he would have gone on to, I don't know, sitcom fame or directing or...
Yeah, something.
Winthrop from the Music Man, the Jackson 5, and Dan Plesac, the natives of Gary, Indiana. And at 40 years old, you would imagine that Dan Plesac would kind of rather be with a team right now that had a shot to go to the postseason. Only very late in his career did he get that opportunity. 1999 with the Diamondbacks against these St. Louis Cardinals. Then the Diamondbacks go to the World Series. Plesac is exiled to Toronto. Ground ball from Vigna. Anderson, the low throw, but Travis Lee helps him out. One down here in the ninth. If you think you can go yard on a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, take your best shot with Hit the Pros from FoxSports.com. The only online game that lets you hit the exact pitches thrown by big leaguers in real games. Step into the batter's box by logging on to FoxSports.com on Lycos. Keyword Hit the Pros. You saw the way that virtual batter was kind of egging on the fans. To J.D. Drew's credit, he has not done that here in Philadelphia.
No, he's never done that, even when Philly fans threw batteries at him, a few unsavory folks. How in the world can someone even contemplate doing something like that?
You forget these guys are living, breathing human beings, you know? I mean, they're on your fantasy league team, and they don't exactly come to life for you sometimes, but J.D. Drew and Scott Rolen both have heard booing today, but it's certainly been in the zone. It has not been outrageous here today. 3-1 the count from Plesac. Rolen a big double in the third today. Drove in 2 of these 5 St. Louis runs.
See that wide grain on the fat part of the bat? The wider the grain, the harder the wood. Usually, we talked about that earlier. That looks like ash right there. And yep, that's a Louisville Slugger. Louisville Slugger still using ash in their bats as opposed to maple. But ash, as we said earlier, is inclined to chip a little more than the maple. A lot more, as a matter of fact. It's not as compressed.
Have you given any thought to what you would have used had the maple been available to you as a player?
I don't. It's been a while, Josh, since I've given thought to stuff like that. No, I haven't.
Just seems like, given the option now, you know, a lot of guys are just at least wanting to give that maple a shot.
Well, to their detriment, in some cases, because the home run has dominated baseball, and if you're a guy who is a singles hitter or a gap hitter, and you use maple, and those balls in the gap become fly balls to outfielders, then it would be wrong. So you have to determine what type of player you are and what type of hitter you are. If you're a guy with lift and strength and can pop the ball out of the ballpark, then perhaps the maple might be the thing. But just to use it because the ball goes farther, that ball that goes farther, instead of being, as I said, a line drive single, might be a fly ball out.
And as it's been said, too, it's not necessarily the arrow, it's the Indian, too. You know, and you've actually got to know your limitations, as you say, as a player. You've got to realize that just because you have a better bat, it doesn't necessarily make you a better hitter. Of course, everybody's got their choice of personally made arrows now. Edmonds chasing, and he's down on strikes.
First strikeout for Plesac. Good fastball right there. The cut fastball on the outside corner. Larry Bowen now could make a move and have his right-hander just to keep this game in tow. I would think Bo would do that.
Yeah, Mike Timlin is out there.
Yeah, I mean, why not do this? Use Plesac to get Vigna, Drew, and Edmonds, 2 of those 3, and then bring in the right-hander to face Pujols.
And there you go. Timlin, the former Cardinal, coming on. The veteran throw-in from St. Louis in the Scott Rolen deal. This is 36-year-old Mike Timlin, who has developed kind of an annoying habit of giving up untimely home runs since he's come over to Philadelphia. Sinker has been staying up too high, and the result has been the home runs that we mentioned.
Yeah, catchers don't catch too many high sinkers. they never reach him.
One on, Albert Pujols at the plate, and he chops it to third base. That'll keep Scott Rolen on deck. Rolen, though, has made his presence known today. He doubled in 2, part of a 5-1 Cardinal lead. Steve Klein will try and bring it on home for the Cardinals. Bring it home for Jason Simon-Tachi. 7 innings of 2-hit ball for Simon-Tachi today. The great feat of the game brought to you by Dr. Scholl's. Look, feel, do better. And a 7-strikeout afternoon is done well enough for Simon-Tachi. Changeup, a very, very good pitch for Simon-Tachi all afternoon. Steve Klein takes over on the mound. Now we'll open up with Marlon Anderson. 2, 3, 4 in the Philadelphia order. And unless things change radically here, the Phillies will have their 5-game winning streak stopped. The Cardinals had a 6-game streak stopped last night. And now they can make it, assumably here, 7 out of 8. Up near first, and Martinez will finally lay the tag on Marlon Anderson. Now don't forget, right after the game, we'll be getting you back to the studio. It'll be Kevin Kennedy, Jeannie Zelasco, getting you up to date on, well, a lot of baseball side issues, but also what's going on the field. Great game brewing right now at Wrigley. The Yankees and the Mariners played today, and Bernie Williams has hits in each of his last 10 official at-bats. He's closing in on a major league record. That record is 12.
Dale Long was the first, I believe, to have 12 straight hits.
I think Walt Dropo was in that mix, too.
Walter Dropo, good.
Bobby Abreu looking for his first hit today. Steve Klein trying to find some consistency. He was lights out for most of last year for St. Louis. He's been in and out here in 2002. If indeed the Cardinals win this thing, Simon-Tachi goes to 9-4 and has made a very good statement for Tony La Russa today that his 15 minutes are not over.
Of fame, that is.
Mm-hmm. Matt Morris takes to the mound tomorrow. Vicente Padilla goes for the Phillies. Pretty good pitching matchup right there.
Yes, sir. Aces of both staffs.
2-2 is buzzed outside. And Padilla, who was not assured of a spot in the rotation in spring training, has given the Phillies a very big lift.
All-star representative this year.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to run the ball up and set it on a tee, that's how you pitch Bobby Abreu right now. It's easier to hit when pitches are more predictable. So with a 4-run lead, 3-2 count, if you're the hitter, you only look for one pitch. That's a fastball over the heart of the plate. If you hit it out of the ballpark, the pitcher says, big deal. A walk is the same as a home run right here.
It's a strikeout instead.
That's a little better.
2 down in the inning. And by the way, the coordinating producer of Fox Baseball, Michael Weissman. Today's game produced by Carol Langley McDermott, directed by Bill Webb. The associate director, Kathy Hunt, broadcast associate Eric Billigmeyer, technical producer Matt Benedict. The coordinating producer of the studio show, Scott Ackerson. Today's pregame produced by Gary Lang, directed by Bob Levy. The senior producer of Fox Sports is Bill Brown. Executive producers Ed Gorin and David Hill. Thank you, everybody. Up here in the booth as well. One ball, one strike to count to Burrell. Trying to avoid the hat trick. He struck out twice today. Socked in a right. He has avoided the hat trick. Now Klein's got to face Jeremy Giambi, who blasted a home run last time up. That's when Simon Tachi was working on a one-hit shutout. But as Simon Tachi steered things up and over the 100-pitch mark today, Giambi got up in the count 3-1, and there was liftoff. If indeed the Cardinals get this last out, Tim, they'll go to 67-53. They would go to 4.5 up on Houston, 5 on Cincinnati. Those two teams play in Cincinnati tonight. Roy Oswalt, 14-6 against the ageless Jose Rijo.
Ace of the Cardinals in the bullpen, Jason Isringhausen warming up.
Klein finds the outside edge. So one strike away from bringing this thing home, leaving Isringhausen in the pen. And there it is. Steve Klein with the strikeout. And the St. Louis Cardinals with a 5-1 victory today. They have won 7 out of 8. They snapped the Phillies' 5-game win streak. Simon Tachi, the winner. Coggin, the loser. Stay tuned. Kevin Kennedy and Jeannie Zelasco standing by in studio. A lot to talk about. For Tim, I'm Josh. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you. Of course, if the season ended today, the Cardinals would indeed be the winners of the NL Central. Of course, the season could be over in 13 days as we welcome you inside the Fox Network Center. Jeannie Zelasco, Kevin Kennedy. Negotiations underway again today. Earlier, we caught up with both sides en route to the bargaining table. We will hear from Chief Operating Officer Bob Dupay in just a moment. First up, Donald Fehr.
Well, during the period leading up to the August 12th Executive Board meeting, at which point the owners knew that the players would consider setting a strike date if we didn't have a deal, we had progress on a number of issues, and it was hoped going into that next week that progress would continue and it wouldn't be necessary to get this far. Unfortunately, it didn't. Unfortunately, we are still a considerable distance apart on some of the remaining issues, and therefore on Friday the board decided to go ahead with what it had determined to do on Monday if agreements did not progress, and that's to set a strike date. Players are in a very unfortunate position and to a certain extent a little bit behind the 8 ball. If we do not have an agreement and we play through the end of the season, the owners can essentially lock the players out, refuse to sign contracts, try and unilaterally implement their new proposals, and there'll be nothing the players can do about it for a very long time. That is precisely the situation that the NBA players were in after the close of the 1998 championship series, and we just are unwilling to be in that position, and so it's difficult. The owners certainly knew and have known for weeks that if we did not have a deal, the players would have no choice but to set a strike date.
It was disappointing to us. We had made a lot of progress on most of the major issues, most of the key economic issues. On Wednesday night, the union made a proposal on the luxury tax that essentially moved the thresholds over 3 years down $7.5 million. We countered the next morning, moving up the thresholds over the years by $6.5 million, and we then went over the next morning and said we were willing to compromise on every one of the elements with regard to the tax, and they said there'd be no more proposals, no more bargaining on the issue, and went and set a strike date. So we were disappointed.
What they've proposed is a tax that is much, much more onerous than the tax we had in the last agreement. And its principal purpose, I think, as Peter Angelos quite candidly described yesterday at the owners' press conference, is to impose severe financial penalties on owners if they go above the threshold. We think that independently, a tax at 50%, much less at the threshold the owners have proposed, which would affect 7 teams immediately and another 5 or 6 very quickly, is something that would act very much like a cap. And when you add it to the revenue sharing, which will move an additional tens of millions of dollars from those very same clubs to other clubs, you have a set of circumstances in which the tax is just going to be too much.
All we're saying with regard to a competitive balance tax is to Team A or to Team B or to Team Y, If you think you have the resources and you want to spend and pull yourself away from the rest of the industry and be over-competitive, you have the right to do that. You can spend, but you're going to have to pay some money to the rest of the industry for the privilege of doing that. If you want to be over-competitive, then go ahead and do that, but you're going to have to pay some money to the rest of the industry. Our whole goal in these negotiations was to improve the competitive balance landscape in the industry, to give more teams a chance to compete, and that's the theory behind the competitive balance tax.
Well, both sides want to talk about numbers. Here's some numbers for you. From 1994 to 2002, the average ticket price way up. The average salary is doubled. Attendance is down. Bonilla at 6'3" versus A-Rod, $22 million, the highest paid. Bull market 94, already rising up to 11,000. Now it's down to a bear market at 8,700. That's why I think a deal's going to get done. Who's going to lose? It's not the owners as far as money. It's not the players as far as money. It's the fans. If you strike, I'll never forgive you. That's the problem right there. You're going to lose the fans. They will not come back. Don't take them for granted. We lost 10%. We could lose 20 to 50%. Who knows? Because people are sick of it. Football's on the horizon. Get this deal done. They've had a year and a half to do it. There's no excuse for it. Get the deal done and keep the fans in the seats.
You are mad as heck, and you're not going to take it
I'm very
anymore.
passionate. You're right. I saw that movie too.
Yeah,
right?
okay. Hey, let's share some more baseball because they were playing games on this Saturday. What a novel idea. We may not be able to share scores in 2 weeks, so take them while you can. Bottom 9. Now, Sammy Sosa with a home run in this one. Career number 493. He's now tied with Lou Gehrig for 18th place all time. But Yurubio Durazo, a grand slam, has put this one pretty much out of reach for the Cubbies. 6-2, bottom 9. And, of course, the game that you were watching, Scott Rolen, in his triumphant return to Philadelphia. The Cardinals take it 5-1. Rolen 1 for 2 on the day, but he has been hot of late. And a game just underway in Seattle. The Yankees in town, a battle of division leaders. Get with Bernie Williams. He got another hit, Kevin. Nobody has scored top
one more to go, Jeannie, for Bernie. I mean, 12 consecutive hits is the all-time record by 2 old-timers. Bernie Williams, incredible clutch hitter. We saw it last week with a base hit to left field. He's been incredible. The Yankees are starting to run away with the East right now, and they're making that distance that most people thought they would between them and the Red Sox. And I'll tell you what, the Mariners, they have to be worried a little bit because Anaheim's coming. Not just the wild card. Anaheim has a chance to win this division, so it's going to be interesting.
It sure will. And we can guarantee some baseball for you next week that will be interesting. Coming up on Fox, Troy Glass's Angels, as we talk about, square off against Nomar Garciaparra and the Red Sox in a crucial battle between two teams fighting for their postseason lives, or Chipper Jones, his NL East leading Braves, taking on Shawn Green and the Dodgers in a possible playoff preview, or other regional action. It all begins next week with This Week in Baseball, 12:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Quickly, Kevin, will we be settled by next week?
I don't know by next week. I think it's going to go down to the final week, but I do think it's going to get done.
All right. For Kevin Kennedy, I'm Jeannie Zlasko. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next Saturday.